An Unlimited Pages original. The Last Guest. A gripping mystery thriller. Every story has a beginning. Some have an ending. But tonight's story begins with 6 guests, 1 dead author, and a final manuscript that should not exist. Welcome to Unlimited Pages. Turn the page. Chapter 1. The House by the Lake. 6 guests arrived at Blackwater House before the storm. By midnight, their host was dead. The first thing Detective Lena Cross noticed was the silence. Not the body, not the blood, not the broken wine glass resting beside Evelyn Vale's hand. The silence. Old houses were never truly quiet. They breathed through their walls. They groaned under the weight of winter. They whispered when the wind pressed against the windows. But Blackwater House did none of those things. It sat at the edge of the frozen lake like something dead pretending to sleep. Lena stepped through the front door at 12:17 a.m. A grandfather clock ticked somewhere in the darkness. 6 people stood in the foyer. None of them were crying. That was the second thing she noticed. Officer Daniel Price approached her from the hallway, his face pale beneath the glow of the chandelier. "Victim is Evelyn Vale," he said quietly. 62, best-selling mystery author, found in the dining room. Looks like poisoning, but we'll need the medical examiner to confirm. Lena looked past him. At the end of the hall, beneath a chandelier shaped like twisted branches, Evelyn Vale sat slumped at the head of a long dining table. Her silver hair rested against one shoulder. Her lips were parted slightly, as though her last word had gotten trapped in her throat. Lena had read Evelyn Vale's novels as a teenager. Everyone had. Evelyn Vale was the queen of impossible murders. Locked rooms, dead heirs, hidden children, killer spouses, family secrets buried so deep they came back wearing different faces. And now, Evelyn Vale had died inside her own locked house, surrounded by 6 guests who all looked guilty in different ways. Lena walked into the dining room. The table was still set for 7. 7 plates, 7 wine glasses, 7 folded black napkins, 7 silver name cards. But only 6 guests remained, and 1 dead host. Evelyn's chair had been pushed back just enough to suggest she had tried to stand before the poison took hold. Beside her right hand was a small white envelope. On the front, written in elegant blue ink, were 3 words: "For the detective." Lena stared at it. Officer Price lowered his voice. "We didn't touch it." "Good." Lena pulled on a pair of gloves and lifted the envelope carefully. Inside was not a letter. It was a page, a manuscript page. At the top, typed in bold, were 2 words. Chapter 1. Lena read the first line. "By the time the detective arrives, everyone in the house will be lying." Her stomach tightened. She read the second line, especially the detective. For one moment, Lena forgot to breathe. Behind her, a man spoke. "Well," he said, "are you going to tell us which one of us killed her?" Lena turned. The man was Marcus Vale, Evelyn's younger brother, mid-50s, expensive suit, cheap anger. His face was red, but his hands were shaking. Lena folded the page and returned it to the envelope. Then she looked at the 6 guests. Marcus Vale, the bitter brother. Clara Vale, the adopted daughter. Julian Price, the family lawyer. Nora Bell, the loyal assistant. Dr. Simon Reed, the former psychiatrist. Grant Holloway, the ex-lover. 6 people. 6 motives waiting to be discovered. Lena looked back at Evelyn's body. Then she said the only thing she knew for certain: no one leaves this house. A woman near the fireplace gave a soft, broken laugh. Nora Bell, Evelyn's assistant. That's exactly what she said would happen. Lena faced her. What? Nora's eyes were red, but not from tears, from fear. She told me this morning, Nora whispered. She said tonight one of us would kill her. The room went still. Lena stepped closer. And you didn't call the police? Nora looked toward the body. You don't understand Evelyn Vale. Her voice lowered. She didn't want to stop it. A gust of wind struck the windows. The chandelier flickered once. Then somewhere upstairs, a floorboard creaked. Every guest turned toward the ceiling. Lena looked at Officer Price. I thought everyone was accounted for. He swallowed. They are. Another creak, slow, deliberate like a footstep. Then came the sound that made every guest step backward, a door closing upstairs. Lena pulled her gun. The dead woman's house had just made its first mistake. Someone else was inside. So Chapter 2. The Seventh Chair. The staircase curved up from the foyer like the spine of a sleeping animal. Lena climbed slowly, gun raised, each step sighing beneath her weight. Officer Price followed behind her with his flashlight. At the bottom of the stairs, the 6 guests watched in silence. No one offered to come. No one asked if they should. That told Lena something. Innocent people usually wanted to explain. Guilty people usually wanted to wait. The upstairs hallway was lined with framed book covers from Evelyn Vale's career. 29 novels, 29 bestsellers. Each cover displayed beneath polished glass like a trophy. The Dead Hour, The Widow's Promise, The Girl in the Locked Room, The Man Who Wasn't There. Lena stopped at the final frame. It was empty. Beneath the blank glass was a small, brass plate. The Last Guest. Officer Price aimed his flashlight at it. Her next book? Lena stared at the empty frame. Maybe. Another sound came from the end of the hall. A soft scrape. Wood against wood. Lena moved toward it. The sound had come from a bedroom. The door was closed. She raised one hand, signaling Price to stay back. Then she pushed it open. The room appeared empty. White bed, antique dresser, heavy curtains, a lamp glowing beside the nightstand. But the window was open. Cold wind poured into the room. The curtains billowed inward like ghosts trying to escape. Lena crossed quickly to the window and looked down. Snow-covered shrubs stretched beneath the second floor. No footprints, no ladder, no broken branches, no sign anyone had climbed out. She turned back toward the room. That was when she saw the mirror. On the glass, written in dark red lipstick, were 5 words. One of them is already dead. Officer Price cursed under his breath. Lena stepped closer. The lipstick was fresh, still wet along the edge of the last letter. She looked around the bedroom. Check the closet. Price opened it. Empty. Lena crouched and looked beneath the bed. Nothing. Then she noticed something on the pillow. A black envelope. Her name was written across it. Detective Cross. Lena picked it up. Inside was another manuscript page. Chapter 2. She read silently. The detective will go upstairs. She will find the message. She will believe there is a seventh person in the house. She will be wrong. Lena's fingers tightened around the page. Officer Price watched her. "What does it say?" Lena looked at him. "It says we're being watched." Then someone screamed downstairs. Lena and Price ran. By the time they reached the dining room, all 6 guests were standing near the table. Clara Vale was pointing with one trembling hand. Not at Evelyn's body. At the table. A new place card had appeared beside Evelyn's plate. White card. Black ink, elegant lettering. It had not been there before. Lena knew because she had counted everything when she arrived. 7 plates, 7 glasses, 7 napkins, 7 place cards. But now there was an 8th. She walked toward it. The name written across the front was "The Last Guest." Marcus backed away. That wasn't there. Nora shook her head quickly. No, it wasn't. Julian Price, Evelyn's lawyer, adjusted his glasses with trembling fingers. This is some kind of game. Lena looked at him. Is that what you think? Julian's mouth went dry. It's what Evelyn did. She played games. Grant Holloway stood near the window, arms folded across his chest. She didn't play games, he said quietly. She destroyed people and called it fiction. Lena studied him. That sounds personal. Grant looked at Evelyn. It was. Dr. Simon Reed stepped forward. He was the calmest person in the room, which made Lena trust him the least. "Detective," he said, "you should understand something. Evelyn was brilliant, but she was also paranoid, obsessive, controlling. You were her psychiatrist for 3 years, and still came to dinner." Simon's face tightened. "She told me she was dying." Clara turned sharply. "What?" Simon looked uncomfortable. "She said she had 6 months left." Marcus laughed bitterly. "That's impossible. Evelyn would have told me." Clara snapped. "Evelyn didn't tell you anything unless it benefited her." Marcus glared at her. "And she told you? The precious daughter?" Clara's expression shifted. Not anger. Pain. Lena saw it, filed it away. "Everyone sit down," Lena said. Nobody moved. I said, "Sit down." One by one, they returned to the table. Nobody sat in Evelyn's chair. Nobody sat near the new place card. Lena stood where Evelyn had died. Let's begin with the obvious. Evelyn Vale invited all of you here tonight. Why? Silence. Then Nora spoke first. She told me it was a private dinner to announce her final book. Marcus said, "She told me it concerned the family estate." Julian said, "She said it involved a legal matter." Grant said, "She said she wanted to apologize." Dr. Reed said, "She said she needed help." Clara was last. Lena turned to her. "And you?" Clara stared at her hands. "She told me she was going to tell the truth." Lena stepped closer. "The truth about what?" Clara looked at Evelyn's body. "About why she adopted me." No one spoke. Outside, the storm pressed itself against the windows. Lena let the silence breathe. Then she asked, "What time did Evelyn collapse?" Officer Price checked his notes. Guests say around 11:35 p.m. Emergency call came in at 11:42. Lena looked around the table. Who called 911? No one answered. Lena frowned. Someone called. Julian raised a hand slowly. I thought Nora did. Nora turned to him. I thought Clara did. Clara shook her head. I didn't. Marcus said, Neither did I. Grant said, I didn't touch a phone. Simon's calm expression faded. Lena turned to Officer Price. Find out who placed the call. Price stepped away and spoke quietly into his radio. The room waited. He returned less than a minute later. His face had changed. The call came from inside the house. Which phone? Price looked toward the dead woman. Evelyn's. Everyone stared at Evelyn's cell phone lying beside her plate. Lena picked it up. The screen was black. The battery was dead. Officer Price whispered, That's not possible. Then the phone lit up. A new message appeared on the screen. Unknown number. 4 words. Ask about the will. Chapter 3. The Will. Julian Price went pale. Lena noticed. So did everyone else. Marcus turned toward him slowly. What will? Julian removed his glasses and wiped them with a cloth, though they were already clean. Evelyn's estate documents are confidential. Marcus stood so quickly, his chair scraped against the floor. My sister is dead at the table and you're talking about confidentiality? Sit down, Lena said. Marcus didn't. She changed it, didn't she? Julian said nothing. Clara looked at him. Julian? He avoided her eyes. That was answer enough. Grant let out a humorless laugh. Oh, Evelyn. Even dead, she knows exactly where to cut. Lena pointed to Marcus's chair. Sit. This time Marcus sat. Lena turned to Julian. If Evelyn changed her will today, and someone here had a motive because of it, you need to tell me. Julian's jaw tightened. She did change it. Marcus leaned forward. To what? At 4 o'clock this afternoon, Evelyn signed a new will. The previous version divided her estate between Clara and Marcus. Marcus's face hardened. And the new version? Julian looked at him. The new version removed you entirely. Marcus stared. You're lying. Julian continued. She also canceled a trust for Nora Bell, removed several charitable donations, and added one unusual condition. Lena asked, What condition? Julian looked at Evelyn's body. If Evelyn died under suspicious circumstances, no one at this dinner would receive anything until the investigation was closed. Nora whispered, That's insane. Grant shook his head. No, that's Evelyn. Marcus slammed his fist on the table. She did this on purpose. Lena turned to him. Did what? Marcus pointed at Evelyn. She brought us here, made sure we all had something to lose, then got herself killed so we'd tear each other apart. Clara said quietly, People don't get themselves murdered, Marcus. He turned on her. You don't know what she was capable of. Clara rose from her chair. I know better than anyone. Lena watched them. There was hatred in the room, but hatred was loud. The real motive was usually quieter. She turned to Nora. You were receiving money from Evelyn? Nora's lips tightened. A small trust. For what? Nora's hand moved to her left wrist. Lena noticed the scar. Thin, white, old, An accident, Nora said. What kind? Car crash. When? 8 years ago. Was Evelyn involved? Nora looked away. No. Grant laughed softly. Everyone turned to him. Nora's expression sharpened. What? Grant said. Sorry, I just admire how easily people lie in this house. Nora stood. You don't know anything about me. I know Evelyn paid you to stay quiet. That's enough, Dr. Reed said. Lena looked between them. Quiet about what? Nora sat back down. No answer. Lena circled the table slowly. Let me make something clear. Evelyn Vale is dead. Someone in this house either killed her or helped arrange her death. I don't care what secrets she kept for you. I care about the secret worth murdering over. She stopped behind Nora. So I'll ask again. What did Evelyn pay you to keep quiet about? Nora closed her eyes. For a moment, Lena thought she would refuse. Then Nora whispered, The child. Clara looked up. What child? Nora's eyes opened. She looked at Clara and guilt moved across her face. Yours. The room seemed to tilt. Clara's voice was barely audible. What did you say? Nora swallowed. Evelyn told you your birth mother abandoned you. Clara's face lost color. She did. Nora lowered her eyes. She lied. Clara stood slowly. No. Your mother came back for you. No. She came to Blackwater House when you were 7. Evelyn refused to let her see you. Clara shook her head. My mother died. Nora's voice cracked. She died 2 weeks later. Clara gripped the back of her chair. How? Nora looked toward Evelyn. She drove into the lake. Silence. Then Clara made a sound, not a scream. Something worse. A small broken breath from someone realizing her entire life had been built on a lie. Lena watched Nora carefully. You knew this? Nora nodded. Evelyn made me sign an agreement. And tonight? Nora wiped her face. Tonight, Evelyn said she was going to tell Clara everything. She said she was tired of carrying ghosts. Clara stared at Evelyn's body. You don't get to die after that, she whispered. Then she turned and walked toward the hallway. Lena blocked her path. Where are you going? To breathe. You stay where I can see you. Clara looked at her with wet eyes. Then watch me fall apart, Detective. Before Lena could answer, the lights went out. The house plunged into darkness. Someone gasped. A chair fell. Glass shattered. Then in the dark, a voice whispered near the table. She's not the only one Evelyn stole from. The emergency lights flickered on. Dim red light washed over the dining room. Everyone froze. Except Julian. He was standing now. One hand pressed to his stomach. Blood seeped between his fingers. He looked at Lena in confusion, as though embarrassed by what had happened. Then he collapsed onto the floor. Chapter 4. The Second Secret. Julian Price hit the floor hard. For 1 second, nobody moved. The emergency lights painted the dining room in a deep red glow, making every face look guilty. Then Lena dropped beside him. Julian. His eyes fluttered. Blood spread beneath his hand, dark and fast. Lena pressed both palms against the wound. Get me towels. Now. Nora ran toward the kitchen. Officer Price grabbed his radio. Dispatch, this is Officer Price. We need medical at Blackwater House immediately. Second victim. Stab wound. Repeat, second victim. Static answered him. He tried again. Nothing. The storm outside slammed against the windows as if the house itself was trying to keep them trapped. Marcus stood frozen beside his chair. Clara covered her mouth with both hands. Grant backed away from the table, his eyes scanning everyone else. Dr. Simon Reed moved toward Julian. I can help. Lena looked up sharply. Can you? Simon's face remained calm. I was a surgeon before psychiatry. Lena hesitated only a second. Then help. Simon knelt beside Julian and took over the pressure with steady hands. Nora returned with towels. Simon packed them against the wound. Julian gasped. His fingers grabbed Lena's sleeve. She leaned close. Who did this? His mouth moved. No sound came out. Lena lowered her ear closer. Julian whispered one word. Guessed? Then his eyes rolled back. Clara began to cry. Marcus whispered, No, 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 no. Lena checked Julian's pulse. Still there. Weak, but there. She stood and turned slowly toward the others. Nobody moves. Grant lifted both hands. Detective, the lights were out. None of us could see anything. Someone saw enough to stab him. Marcus pointed at the doorway. It was whoever was upstairs. Lena looked at him. Convenient. His face twisted. You think I did this? I think everyone in this room had darkness, opportunity, and a reason to keep Julian quiet. Nora's voice shook. Quiet about what? Lena looked at Julian bleeding on the floor. That is the question. A soft sound came from the table, paper sliding against wood. Everyone turned. The place card marked, The last guest had fallen flat. Beneath it was a black envelope. Lena walked to it. This one was not addressed to her. It was addressed to Julian Price. She opened it. Inside was another manuscript page. Chapter 4. Lena read silently. Julian Price believed the law would protect him. It would not. He knew who signed the second document. He knew who was never supposed to inherit. And because he waited too long to tell the truth, he would bleed before midnight. Lena lowered the page. Second document, she said. Julian's breathing grew shallow. Simon kept pressure on the wound. What second document? Marcus demanded. Lena looked around the room. That is what one of you didn't want him to explain. Grant frowned. Evelyn always had documents, contracts, agreements, threats wrapped in legal language. Julian suddenly coughed. His eyes opened halfway. Lena dropped beside him again. Julian, stay with me. What document? His lips trembled. Not hers. Lena leaned closer. Whose? Julian's eyes shifted toward the table, toward Clara, then toward Lena. Anna. His body went limp. Simon checked his neck. He's still alive, but barely. Lena stared at Julian. Anna. The name meant nothing to the room, but to Lena it struck like a match in a dark cellar. Anna Cross. Her mother. Dead 26 years, never connected to Evelyn Vale. Not supposed to be. Officer Price's radio crackled once, then died again. Detective, he said quietly, I can't reach anyone. Lena stood. Landline? Nora shook her head. Evelyn had it removed last year. Cell service? Bad even on clear nights, Grant said. In this storm, nothing. Lena looked toward the windows. Snow hammered the glass. Blackwater House sat at the end of a private road, surrounded by woods and frozen water. No ambulance. No backup. No escape. Just a dead author, a dying lawyer, and 5 suspects who had all learned how to lie from the same woman. Then Officer Price called from the hallway. "Detective." Lena turned. He stood beside a narrow door beneath the staircase. It was open. Cold air moved up from below. "I found the basement." Lena looked at Simon. "Keep him alive." Simon nodded. "If I can." Lena turned to the guests. "All of you stay in this room. Hands visible. If anyone leaves, I assume they are running from murder." Marcus gave a bitter laugh. "We're trapped in a house with a killer and you want us to sit politely?" "No," Lena said. "I want the killer to think I still believe this is chaos." No one answered. Lena followed Officer Price down the basement stairs. The air changed halfway down. Colder, older, heavy with dust, damp wood, and paper. At the bottom, Price lifted his flashlight. Lena stopped. The basement was not a basement. It was an archive. Rows of metal filing cabinets filled the room from wall to wall. Each drawer was labeled with a name. Marcus Vale, Clara Vale, Nora Bell, Grant Holloway, Dr. Simon Reed, Julian Price. Lena moved deeper into the room. There were more names: judges, politicians, reporters, police officers, businessmen, authors. People who had appeared in Evelyn Vale's books under different names and prettier lies. Officer Price whispered, "What was she doing?" Lena opened Nora Bell's drawer. Inside were photographs, police reports, medical records, signed agreements. She pulled one report free, 8 years old. A car accident. Nora had said Evelyn was not involved. The report said otherwise. Driver, Evelyn Margaret Vale. Passenger, Nora Bell. Lena's jaw tightened. Evelyn had caused Nora's accident, then paid her to lie. She closed the drawer and opened Marcus's. Bankruptcy notices, forged loan documents, photographs of Marcus leaving a casino at dawn. She opened Grant's. Old manuscript pages, copyright disputes, a settlement agreement. Then Clara's. Letters, dozens of them, all addressed to Clara, all unopened, all from a woman named Anna. Lena felt the room tilt. Anna. Again. She reached for one. The envelope was yellowed with age. The return address read, Anna Cross. Her mother's name. Lena's hand froze. Officer Price noticed. "Detective?" Lena slowly opened the letter. The handwriting was familiar in a way that hurt. "Dear Clara, I know Evelyn told you I left you. I did not." Lena stopped reading. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Clara's birth mother was Anna Cross? No, that was impossible. Lena had been Anna Cross's only child. At least, that was what she had always believed. She reached for another letter. Before she could open it, a speaker crackled overhead. Static filled the basement. Then Evelyn Vale's voice came through. Calm, elegant, dead. "Hello, Detective Cross." Officer Price slowly raised his flashlight toward the ceiling. Lena did not move. The recording continued. "If you are hearing this, then I am dead, which means the last story has begun." Lena stared at the letter in her hand. Evelyn's voice softened. You have spent years searching for the truth, even when you did not know what truth you were searching for. A pause. Tonight I am giving it to you. The filing cabinet beside Lena clicked. One drawer slid open by itself. Lena turned. The label on the drawer read, Lena Marie Cross. Officer Price looked at her. Why does she have a file on you? Lena stepped toward it. Inside was a thick folder. On the cover, written in Evelyn's blue ink, were 4 words. The child who forgot. Lena opened the folder. The first photograph showed a little girl standing outside Blackwater House in a red winter coat. Lena knew the coat. She knew the face. It was hers. Age 7. Standing beside Evelyn Vale. Standing beside Clara. Standing beside Anna Cross, her mother. Lena's breath caught. She had been here before. The speaker crackled one last time. Evelyn's voice lowered to a whisper. Be careful, detective. Truth does not set people free. It buries them. The recording ended. Above them in the dining room, someone screamed. Then came Simon's voice from upstairs. Detective, he's dead. Lena looked at the photograph in her hand, then at the ceiling. Julian Price was dead, and the only clue he had left behind was the name of Lena's mother. Chapter 5. The Basement of Secrets. Lena ran up the basement stairs with the photograph still clenched in her gloved hand. Behind her, Officer Price followed close, breathing hard. By the time they reached the dining room, the red emergency lights had stopped flickering. They now burned steady, washing everything in the color of old blood. Julian Price lay flat on the floor. Dr. Simon Reed knelt beside him with 2 fingers pressed against his neck. Nora stood near the fireplace, one hand covering her mouth. Marcus stared at the body with an expression Lena could not immediately read. Fear, shock, relief. Maybe all 3. Clara was seated at the far end of the room, rocking slightly, whispering something to herself. Grant Holloway leaned against the wall, pale, but still too composed. Lena stepped into the room. Simon looked up. He's gone. How long? Less than a minute. Lena crossed to Julian and crouched beside him. The towel pressed to his abdomen was soaked dark. His face had already changed. Death had a way of emptying a person before anyone was ready to call them gone. She checked his hands. No weapon, no paper, no final note. Then she saw it. On the floor beside Julian's right hand, his index finger had dragged through his own blood. Not a full word. Not even a full letter. Just one curved stroke and a straight line beside it. Marcus looked over Lena's shoulder. What is that supposed to be? Lena did not answer. It could have been an L. It could have been a J. It could have been nothing at all. That was the problem with dying messages. People wanted them to be answers. Most of the time, they were just desperation wearing the shape of a clue. Officer Price stepped closer. Detective? Lena looked around the room. When I went downstairs, Julian was alive. Dr. Reed, you were with him. Simon nodded. I was. And now he's dead. Simon's expression hardened. I tried to save him. Did anyone come near him? No, Marcus cut in. That's not true. Everyone turned. Simon looked at him sharply. What? Marcus pointed toward Clara. She did. Clara stopped rocking. Her face lifted slowly. No, I didn't. Marcus stepped away from the table. You walked past him. I walked to the window. You walked past him first. I was trying not to throw up. Marcus laughed bitterly. How convenient. Clara stood. My mother might be dead because of Evelyn, and you think I cared about Julian's money games. Marcus moved toward her. I think you care about whatever gets you sympathy. Lena stepped between them. Enough! Nora whispered. This is what Evelyn wanted. Lena looked at her. What? Nora's eyes moved toward the body at the head of the table. This. All of us turning on each other. Grant said quietly, Maybe that's because one of us deserves it. Lena turned to him. You have something to add? Grant's jaw flexed. Julian handled Evelyn's contracts for 20 years. If Evelyn ruined someone, Julian helped make it legal. Simon removed his bloody gloves slowly. That does not mean he deserved to die. Grant's eyes flashed. Doesn't it? The room went silent. Lena studied Grant. There it was, not fear, not grief. Rage, carefully folded and tucked beneath expensive restraint. She placed the photograph from the basement into her coat pocket before anyone could see it. Then she turned to Officer Price. Secure both bodies. No one touches anything. Marcus looked toward Evelyn and then Julian. Both bodies? Lena met his eyes. Yes, Marcus, we have 2 victims now. He swallowed, or 1 victim and 1 accomplice. That made Lena pause. Explain. Marcus looked down at Julian. You said it yourself. He knew something. Maybe he helped Evelyn set all this up, then someone silenced him. Someone like you. His mouth tightened. You keep looking at me because I'm loud. That doesn't make me stupid. No, but it may make you careless. Marcus stepped closer. You want truth, Detective? Fine. I hated my sister. I hated what she did to our family. I hated that she treated people like characters she could rewrite whenever she got bored. But killing her? He looked at Evelyn. That would have been mercy. Clara whispered, You're sick. Marcus turned on her. And you're not? After what you just found out. Clara's eyes filled. You have no idea what I'm feeling. No, but I know what you're about to inherit. Clara blinked. Marcus smiled coldly. That is still true, isn't it? Julian said I was removed. Nora was removed. But he didn't say you were. Clara looked at Lena. I didn't know. Marcus laughed. Of course you didn't. Lena looked toward Officer Price. Find Evelyn's study. Nora spoke quickly. It's through the library, East Wing. Lena looked at the guests. You are all coming with me. Grant frowned. To the study? Yes. Simon shook his head. Detective, moving everyone through the house contaminates evidence. Leaving everyone alone with 2 bodies and a killer contaminates people. No one argued after that. They moved through the hallway in a tight group. Officer Price first, then Marcus, Clara, Nora, Grant, and Simon. Lena followed last, watching hands, eyes, breath, distance. The library doors were tall and black, carved with vines that twisted around each other like veins. Inside, shelves rose from floor to ceiling. Books covered every wall, but none looked read. They looked arranged, curated, like guests at another dinner party. Nora led them to a door behind a row of leather-bound encyclopedias. Evelyn's study. The room smelled faintly of smoke and lavender. A massive desk sat before tall windows overlooking the frozen lake. On the desk was a typewriter. Not a laptop, not a tablet. A black vintage typewriter with a page still rolled into it. Lena stepped closer. The page contained one sentence. The second death will make them trust the wrong man. Lena felt the room narrow around her. Grant spoke behind her. That wasn't there earlier. Lena turned. You were in here. His face changed too late. There it was, a slip. A small one. But small slips opened big doors. When? Lena asked. Grant looked away. Before dinner. Why? He said nothing. Marcus laughed. Well, that answers that. Grant turned to him. Be careful. Marcus stepped forward. Or what? You'll stab me in the dark too? Grant moved fast. Officer Price caught him before he reached Marcus. Back up, Price said. Grant shoved his hand away. I'm fine. But he wasn't. His face was no longer controlled. Lena opened the desk drawer. Inside were neat stacks of black envelopes, some addressed, some blank. One addressed to Grant Holloway. She lifted it. Grant stared at it as though it might bite him. Lena opened it. Another manuscript page. Chapter 5. She read aloud this time. Grant Holloway came to Blackwater House believing he wanted an apology, but men who ask for apologies often come carrying older weapons. He told himself he wanted the truth. What he wanted was his name back. Grant closed his eyes. Lena looked up. Your name? Grant said nothing. Nora's face shifted. She knew. Lena saw it. Mr. Holloway. He opened his eyes. She stole from me. Marcus snorted. Money? Grant's voice turned cold. No. Something worse? He looked at the shelves around them. Every person in this country thinks Evelyn Vale created the impossible murder, the locked room queen, the genius of modern mystery. He looked at Evelyn's desk, but her first book wasn't hers. Lena said, Whose was it? Grant swallowed. Mine. The room stilled. Grant walked toward the desk, but stopped before Officer Price could warn him. I was 28, broke, stupid, in love. I gave Evelyn a manuscript called The Red House. She told me it was brilliant. She told me she could help me polish it. His mouth twisted. 6 months later, she published The Dead Hour. Lena knew that book. Everyone did. It had launched Evelyn's career. Grant continued. She changed the title, changed the ending, changed the names, but the bones were mine. Marcus folded his arms. And you never sued? Grant laughed once. I tried. Julian handled the settlement. Lena looked toward the hallway where Julian's body lay. What settlement? Grant pointed to the filing cabinets in spirit, if not in sight. The kind that destroys you if you talk. Nora whispered. Grant. He turned to her. No, I'm done keeping her clean. Lena stepped closer. You came here tonight for revenge. I came because she called me. What did she say? Grant's eyes moved to the typewriter. She said she was finally going to put my name on it. On what? The Last Guest. Thunder rolled over the lake. Lena looked back at the typed sentence. The second death will make them trust the wrong man. Wrong man. Grant had motive. Grant had rage. Grant had been in the study before dinner. But Evelyn's sentence suggested something else. Someone wanted them to look at Grant, which meant Lena had to, but not too long. She opened another drawer. Inside was a locked metal box. "Key?" she asked Nora. Nora shook her head. "Evelyn kept it with her." Lena looked back toward the dining room. Evelyn's body, her jewelry, her pockets. Then Clara spoke. "No, she didn't." Everyone turned. Clara looked at the box. "She wore it around her neck." Lena frowned. "What?" "A small key, gold chain. She always wore it under her clothes." Lena remembered Evelyn at the table. Silver hair, black dress, pearl earrings, no visible necklace. She looked at Officer Price. They hurried back to the dining room. The others followed. Evelyn's body sat exactly as before. But when Lena carefully checked beneath the collar of Evelyn's dress, there was no necklace, no chain, no key. Lena looked up. Who touched her? No one answered. Her voice sharpened. Who touched the body? Nora shook her head. No one. Marcus said, "Not me." Grant said nothing. Simon's brow furrowed. Clara stared at Evelyn's neck, then whispered, "She had it at dinner." Lena looked at her. "You're sure?" "Yes." "How sure?" Clara's eyes remained fixed on the dead woman. "Because I remember thinking it was ugly." A cold silence passed through the room. Officer Price stepped closer to Lena. "So, someone took it after she died." Lena looked around the table. "Not after." She turned toward the wine glasses. "During." Then her eyes landed on the 7th wine glass, Evelyn's glass, broken beside her hand. The stem lay near the plate. The bowl had shattered, but the base was missing. Lena crouched and searched beneath the table. Nothing. She looked toward the fireplace. Something small glittered in the ashes. She crossed the room and knelt. There, half buried in gray ash, was the base of Evelyn's wine glass. Wrapped around it was a thin gold chain, and attached to the chain was a small key. Lena lifted it with tweezers. The metal was warm. Recently burned. Behind her, Grant whispered, "What the hell?" Lena stood slowly. Someone had taken the key from Evelyn's neck, wrapped it around the broken glass, and tried to burn it. Not to hide it forever. To delay its discovery. She turned toward the study, toward the locked box. But before she could move, Evelyn's dead phone lit up again on the table. Everyone froze. A new message appeared. Unknown number. This time there were 7 words. "The box opens when the liar bleeds." Nora screamed. Lena looked down. Blood was dripping onto the floor. Not from Julian. Not from Evelyn. From Marcus Vale's hand. He was clutching a steak knife behind his back. Chapter 6. The Liar Bleeds. Every eye in the room dropped to Marcus's hand. A crimson bead slid from the tip of his little finger, ran along the polished blade of the steak knife, and struck the hardwood floor. The room seemed to stop breathing. Officer Daniel Price reacted first. "Drop the knife." Marcus stared at the blade as though he had only just realized he was holding it. "What?" "Drop it!" The knife clattered to the floor. Marcus raised both hands. His right palm was clean. His left hand bled from a shallow cut across the base of his thumb. Lena didn't move. She watched his face. Confusion. Embarrassment. Fear, real fear. Not the kind people performed, the kind they discovered. I didn't, Marcus whispered. I don't remember picking it up. Grant laughed once, a dry, humorless sound. Convenient, Marcus rounded on him. You think I stabbed Julian? I think you're bleeding exactly when the dead woman said the liar would. Lena stepped between them. Nobody says another word. She crouched beside the knife. There was blood on the handle. Not much. Just enough for testing. She slid it carefully into an evidence bag. Then she looked at Marcus's injured hand. Show me. Marcus hesitated. Now. He extended his hand. The cut wasn't deep, almost surgical, a single clean slice. Lena frowned. This wasn't made while attacking someone. Marcus looked at her. What? This cut happened after the blade stopped moving. Simon stepped closer. She's right. Lena looked at him. Simon continued. If he'd stabbed Julian with that knife, there would be bruising around the wound in his hand from the force. There isn't. So how did it happen? Simon studied Marcus's palm. He gripped the blade. Marcus blinked. I would never do that. No, Simon said quietly. You wouldn't. Silence settled over the room. Lena replayed the last minute in her mind. The phone. The message. The blood. The knife. Then something clicked. She looked toward Evelyn's body, then at the dining table. 7 place settings. 7 wine glasses. 1 broken. 1 missing base. The key. The fire. The message. Someone wasn't merely leaving clues. Someone was directing the investigation. She turned to Officer Price. Nobody touches another object in this house. Price nodded. Lena walked back into Evelyn's study carrying the tiny gold key recovered from the fireplace. The others followed several paces behind. The locked metal box sat exactly where she'd left it. She inserted the key. For a moment. Nothing, then click. The lock released. Marcus leaned forward. What is it? Lena lifted the lid slowly. Inside wasn't money, or jewelry, or another manuscript. It was a stack of cassette tapes, each one labeled in Evelyn's elegant handwriting. Marcus, Clara, Nora, Grant. Simon, Julian, Lena, and beneath them, one final tape, the truth. No one spoke. Officer Price looked around the room. Does anyone even have something that plays these? Nora raised one trembling finger. Evelyn did. She crossed to a cabinet beneath the bookshelves. Inside sat an old cassette recorder, dust-free, plugged into the wall. Ready. Lena examined it. Someone had used it recently. She inserted the tape marked Julian. The machine whirred to life. Static filled the room. Then Julian's voice emerged. Clear. Calm. If you're listening to this, I'm already dead. Marcus stared. That's impossible. Julian continued. Evelyn insisted every guest record a confession before dinner. Grant frowned. A confession? Not to murder, Julian's recorded voice said, almost as if answering him. To the worst thing we have ever done. The room went still. Julian's voice continued. I refused. A pause. Then I realized she already knew. Another pause. So, I recorded this. Paper rustled somewhere on the tape. I forged legal documents for Evelyn. Nora closed her eyes. Julian continued. I destroyed evidence. Marcus slowly sat down. I helped bankrupt innocent people. Grant lowered his head. I ruined lives. His breathing became shaky. And if you're hearing this, it means Evelyn finally decided the truth was worth more than loyalty. The tape ended with a click. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Finally, Clara whispered, So she collected our confessions. Lena shook her head. No. She looked at the remaining tapes. She collected leverage. Grant stepped toward the recorder. Play mine. Lena looked at him. Are you sure? His eyes never left the cassette. If we're trapped here, we might as well stop pretending. Before Lena could press play, the lights throughout the study went out. Not flickering, not dimming. Gone. Darkness swallowed the room. Someone inhaled sharply. A bookshelf shifted with a deep grinding sound. Stone scraped against stone. Officer Price snapped on his flashlight. The beam swept across the wall, where the bookshelf had stood. A hidden doorway had opened. Cold air drifted out from the darkness beyond, and lying just inside the threshold, face down on the floor, was a woman wearing a faded red scarf. For one impossible heartbeat, Lena thought it was her mother. Then the figure slowly lifted her head and smiled. Chapter 7. The Woman in the Red Scarf. Nobody breathed. The woman slowly lifted her head. Her smile was thin, knowing, almost welcoming. Officer Daniel Price raised his flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness inside the hidden passage. Don't move! The woman didn't answer. She simply watched them. Then, with surprising speed, she disappeared deeper into the tunnel. Lena reacted instantly. Price with me. She sprinted through the hidden doorway. Behind her, she heard Marcus shout, Are you insane? The narrow corridor curved beneath the house. Stone walls pressed close on either side. The air smelled damp, mixed with old paper and rust. Lena's footsteps echoed. Ahead. Another glimpse of the red scarf. She rounded the corner. Nothing. Empty passage. Only silence. Officer Price swept the flashlight across the floor. There! Fresh footprints, bare feet. They disappeared into the dust, then stopped abruptly in the middle of the corridor. Price frowned. They just... Lena crouched. The footprints were real. The dust had been disturbed, but there were no prints leading away. No hidden door. No ladder. Nothing. She stood slowly. This house has more secrets. A metallic clang echoed somewhere behind them. They spun around. The hidden doorway had slammed shut. Price rushed back, locked. He pushed hard. It didn't move. Lena looked deeper into the passage. We keep going. The corridor opened into a circular room. The walls were covered with shelves. Hundreds of cassette tapes. Thousands of index cards. Dozens of photographs. In the center stood an old projector, still humming. Price examined it. It's warm. Lena followed a cable across the floor. It disappeared through a hole in the ceiling. Toward the dining room. Toward the chandelier. She looked around the chamber. Then she understood. The photograph. Price looked up. What? The dinner photograph. She remembered the image from the basement. 8 people sitting around the table. One hidden figure. It wasn't a photograph. Price frowned. What are you talking about? It was a projection. She turned slowly. Evelyn built an illusion. On the wall hung another photograph. This one showed Blackwater House 30 years earlier. Children playing in the snow. Adults laughing on the porch. Lena stepped closer. Her pulse quickened. There she was, a little girl in a bright red coat, age 7, standing beside another little girl, Clara. Neither of them looked frightened. They looked happy. Lena stared. No. Price came beside her. You know this picture? I don't remember it. But that's you. She nodded. And that's Clara. Clara, 7 years old, standing beside Lena, smiling, as though they had always known each other. Lena whispered, We've met before. Behind the photograph was a folded piece of paper. She carefully unfolded it. A child's drawing. 2 girls holding hands outside the lake house. Above them, written in uneven pencil, Best sisters forever. The room suddenly felt colder. Price looked at the drawing. You don't have a sister. Lena swallowed. I know. Another voice answered from the darkness. No. You don't. The flashlight beam snapped toward the sound. The woman in the red scarf stood at the opposite end of the room. Closer now. Older than Lena had first thought. Late 60s. Weathered face. Gray hair. But unmistakably alive. Lena took one careful step forward. Who are you? The woman smiled. I've been waiting a very long time for you to ask. What is your name? She tilted her head. My name won't help you. Lena kept her voice steady. Were you at dinner tonight? No. Did you kill Evelyn Vale? The woman laughed softly. No. Then why are you here? The smile disappeared. Because Evelyn lied. Lena felt every muscle tighten. About what? The woman looked directly into her eyes. Everything. She pointed toward the drawing. You think this story began tonight? She shook her head. It began 26 years ago. Price stepped forward. Stay where you are. The woman ignored him. She looked only at Lena. Your mother didn't die because she drove into the lake. Lena's heart slammed against her ribs. What? She died because she found something Evelyn couldn't allow anyone else to see. Lena's voice barely came out. My mother knew Evelyn? Oh, yes. The woman's eyes filled with sadness. They were best friends. Lena's mind refused to accept the words. No. They built Blackwater House together. No. They wrote together. No. The woman's expression hardened. Evelyn Vale wrote mysteries. She took another slow step forward. But she never wrote alone. Silence. The projector behind them clicked, without anyone touching it. A reel began turning. Dust floated through the beam of light. A grainy home movie appeared on the stone wall. The image shook. Children running through snow. Blackwater House. Then Anna Cross, young, laughing, standing beside Evelyn Vale. Both women carrying stacks of handwritten pages. Lena stared in disbelief. The film continued. Anna looked toward the camera. She smiled. Then she spoke. Although the projector had no sound, Lena knew exactly what her mother had said, because she had seen those words once before, on an old birthday card. One day this will all belong to you. The film suddenly burned. The image melted into white. The projector stopped. Smoke curled from the reel. The room fell silent again. The woman in the red scarf looked at Lena one last time. Evelyn invited 6 guests to dinner. She paused, but she spent 26 years waiting for the 7th. Before Lena could ask another question, a deafening gunshot echoed from somewhere above the tunnel. Price reached for his radio by instinct. Still dead. He looked at Lena. That came from the house. Lena turned back toward the hidden doorway. When she looked over her shoulder again, the woman in the red scarf was gone. Only the red scarf remained, folded neatly on the floor, waiting for her. Chapter 8. The Gunshot. The echo of the gunshot rolled through the stone passage like distant thunder. Lena didn't hesitate. Move! She and Officer Daniel Price sprinted back toward the hidden doorway. The red scarf remained on the floor. Lena wanted to stop, to examine it, to understand who the mysterious woman was. But someone upstairs had just fired a weapon. Nothing mattered more. Price shoved against the hidden door. This time it opened. The bookshelf in Evelyn's study slowly rotated back into place with a deep mechanical groan. The moment the opening was wide enough, Lena burst into the study. The room was empty. The cassette recorder still sat on Evelyn's desk. The tape marked Grant lay beside it, untouched. But something was different. The study window was open. Snow swirled across the polished hardwood floor. A cold wind carried the smell of pine and frozen water into the room. Price scanned outside with his flashlight. No footprints. Lena frowned. Impossible. The snow beneath the window was smooth. Perfect, untouched. No one had climbed out. No one had climbed in. Yet the window had clearly been opened. Then they heard shouting from the hallway. Marcus! Lena ran. The others stood frozen outside the library. Grant Holloway was on his knees. His hands were raised. A revolver lay 3 feet away. Officer Price immediately kicked the weapon down the hallway. No one touch it. Marcus pointed at Grant. He fired it. Grant looked up. No, I didn't. I saw you. You saw me holding it. You had the gun. I picked it up after the shot. Marcus shook his head. He's lying. Lena crouched beside the revolver. 1 chamber had been fired. 5 remained loaded. She looked toward the walls. No bullet hole. No shattered glass. No visible impact. So where did the bullet go? She asked. No one answered. Dr. Simon Reed stepped forward slowly. No one was hit. Lena looked around the hallway. He was right. There was no blood, no wounded victim, only 1 discharged round. Clara whispered, Maybe someone missed. Lena shook her head. No. She pointed toward the revolver. If someone wanted to kill, they were less than 15 feet away. Grant looked exhausted. I heard the shot. So did we. I came into the hallway. He looked at the gun, and it was already on the floor. Marcus laughed bitterly. Of course it was. Lena ignored them. She followed instinct instead. She looked upward. The ceiling. Old plaster, dark wood beams. Then she saw it. A tiny circle of fresh white dust drifting down from one beam. She aimed Price's flashlight upward. There, embedded deep in the timber, the bullet. Whoever fired it hadn't aimed at a person. They had aimed at the ceiling, almost deliberately. Price frowned. Why? Lena stepped beneath the damaged beam. Something silver reflected back at her. She reached up carefully. Wedged inside a narrow crack was a small brass cylinder, about the size of a lipstick tube. The bullet had shattered the wood just enough for it to fall. It landed softly in Lena's palm. Marcus stared. What is that? Lena unscrewed the cap. Inside was a tightly rolled strip of paper. She carefully removed it. Grant leaned closer. What does it say? Lena unfolded the note. The handwriting was unmistakable. Evelyn Vale. If you have found this, then someone has already tried to mislead you. The first lie was my murder. The second lie was the gunshot. The room went silent. Lena read the final sentence aloud. The person holding the gun is not the person who fired it. Every eye slowly turned toward Grant. Then, just as quickly away from him, because Evelyn herself had warned them not to trust appearances. Grant whispered, I told you. Marcus folded his arms. Or she wanted us to believe you. Lena tucked the note into an evidence envelope. Exactly. Grant looked confused. What? Evelyn never wrote anything without purpose. She looked around the hallway. If she says the gun is a lie, then the truth is somewhere else. Price suddenly noticed something near the library door. Detective. Lena crossed to the hallway. There, pressed into the hardwood floor, was a single wet footprint. Bare. Smaller than a man's, larger than Clara's. Water, not melted snow, had collected around the edges. One footprint. Only one. No matching print. No trail leading to it. Simon stared. That's impossible. Lena knelt. She touched the moisture with one gloved finger. Cold, fresh. Lake water. Not snow, not rain. Lake water. A memory flashed through her mind. The frozen lake behind Blackwater House. Anna Cross. A car beneath the ice. The woman in the red scarf. Lena stood slowly. She looked toward the front windows overlooking the lake. Someone had come from the water. Or wanted them to believe that. Then Clara spoke. Her voice was barely above a whisper. The footprint. Everyone turned. It's facing the wrong direction. Lena looked again. Clara was right. If someone had entered from outside, the footprint should have pointed toward the house. Instead, it pointed toward the lake, as if someone had walked out of the house and disappeared onto the frozen water. No return prints, no exit, just one impossible footprint. Then, from somewhere deep inside the walls of Blackwater House, a bell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. The old grandfather clock in the foyer struck 1 o'clock in the morning. A hidden speaker crackled to life. Evelyn's voice filled the house once more. Good. You've survived the first hour. A pause. But the second hour is when people begin telling the truth. The speaker clicked off. At that exact moment, Nora Bell collapsed to her knees. Tears streamed down her face. I can't do this anymore. Lena stepped toward her. Nora! Nora looked up, shaking uncontrollably. I lied. Silence swept through the hall. Marcus spoke first. Lied about what? Nora closed her eyes. Then she whispered the words that changed everything. I wasn't invited to dinner. Every face in the room froze. Lena's pulse quickened. What did you say? Nora opened her eyes. Evelyn never invited me. She took a ragged breath. I came because someone else did. And I know exactly who killed Evelyn Vale. Chapter 9. The Invitation. No one spoke. The words hung in the hallway like smoke. I wasn't invited to dinner. Lena watched Nora carefully. People lied in different ways. Some couldn't meet your eyes. Some talked too much. Some became perfectly still. Nora Bell didn't move at all. Her shoulders trembled, but her eyes never left the floor. Marcus was the first to break the silence. That's impossible. Nora slowly shook her head. No. Marcus stepped closer. We all saw you here. I know. You worked for Evelyn. I did. So why wouldn't she invite you? Nora looked toward Evelyn's study. Because she fired me. The room fell silent again. Grant frowned. When? This morning. Simon looked genuinely surprised. She never told me. Nora laughed bitterly. Evelyn never told anyone anything unless it helped her. Lena spoke calmly. Start at the beginning. Nora nodded. This morning, around 10, Evelyn called me into her study. She looked around the room. She already had everyone's invitations laid out on the desk. Marcus folded his arms. Mine came 3 days ago. So did everyone else's. But not yours. Nora swallowed. Mine was never written. Lena noticed something. You said the invitations were already on the desk. Yes. How many? Nora answered immediately. 7. The hallway became very quiet. Grant looked confused. There are 6 of us. Nora nodded slowly. I know. Marcus frowned. Then who was the 7th invitation for? Nora looked at him. I don't know. Lena did, or at least, she thought she did, the last guest. She kept the thought to herself. What happened after that? She asked. Evelyn handed me an envelope. What was inside? My final paycheck. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Just like that? No. Nora looked away. She said I had become emotionally compromised. Grant muttered. That's a polite way of saying she stopped trusting you. Nora ignored him. She told me to leave Blackwater House. But you didn't. No. Why? Nora's eyes filled with tears again. Because she begged me to come back. Everyone stared at her. Marcus laughed. You're contradicting yourself. I know how it sounds. Lena remained silent. She wanted Nora to keep talking. She fired me at 10. Nora continued. At 6:30 this evening, she called my cell phone. What did she say? Nora closed her eyes, remembering. She said, her voice became softer, if you still care about Clara, come tonight. Clara looked up. Me? Nora nodded. Evelyn said Clara was finally going to learn the truth. Lena asked quietly, So you came? Yes. Were you invited? No. Then how did you get inside? Nora hesitated. Marcus noticed. There it is. What? The lie. Lena held up a hand. Let her answer. Nora whispered, I had a key. Price looked toward Lena. Evelyn gave it to her. Nora shook her head. No. Then where did you get it? Another pause. Longer this time. Finally, I stole it. Grant sighed. So you've been entering the house whenever you wanted? No. How often? Only twice. Marcus scoffed. You expect us to believe that? I don't care what you believe. Lena watched every face. Marcus looked angry. Grant looked skeptical. Simon looked thoughtful. Clara looked heartbroken. Only one person seemed relieved. Officer Daniel Price. It lasted less than a second. A tiny release of tension, barely visible. But Lena caught it. Why? She filed it away. Show me the key, Lena said. Nora reached into her coat pocket. She froze. Her face drained of color. She searched another pocket, then another. It was here. Marcus rolled his eyes. Of course. I'm serious. She turned her pockets inside out. Nothing. Lena stepped closer. When did you last see it? Before dinner. Grant folded his arms. Convenient. No. Nora looked around desperately. I unlocked the kitchen entrance. Lena's mind raced. The kitchen entrance. No one had checked it. Everyone had assumed the front door was the only way in. She looked at Officer Price. With me. The two hurried through the back hallway. The kitchen was spotless. Copper pans hung above the island. A pot of soup still rested on the stove. Cold, now. Untouched. Price checked the back door. It was locked. Lena examined the deadbolt. No scratches, no damage. Then she noticed something else. The lock wasn't old. It was brand new. Brass still shining. Someone had replaced it recently. She knelt. There, caught beneath the edge of the kitchen rug, was something metallic. A key. Small. Brass. Lena picked it up. Nora's? Price looked closely. Maybe. Lena turned it over. 2 tiny initials were engraved on the head. D.P. Price frowned. My initials. Lena looked at him. You've seen this key before? He slowly reached into his own pocket, removed his key ring, compared them. They matched perfectly. Same manufacturer, same engraving. Same locksmith stamp. Price looked genuinely confused. I've never been here before tonight. Lena believed he believed that, which somehow made it worse. A loud crash echoed from upstairs, then another. Wood splintering, glass breaking. Grant shouted from the hallway, Detective! Lena and Price ran. They found the others standing outside Evelyn's bedroom. The door hung open. The room had been torn apart. Drawers dumped onto the floor. Mattress sliced open. Paintings ripped from the walls. Someone had searched the room. In less than 2 minutes. Marcus stared in disbelief. We were all together. Grant nodded. No one came upstairs. Simon looked around the destroyed bedroom. Then who did this? Lena stepped slowly into the room. The window was still locked from the inside. The closet was empty. The bathroom untouched. Only one thing remained exactly where it had been. The mirror. The lipstick message. One of them is already dead, except now there were more words, freshly written beneath the first message. The red lipstick was still wet. Lena read them aloud, and one of them never existed. No one moved. No one even breathed. Clara whispered, What does that mean? Lena stared at the mirror. Then she counted silently. Marcus, Clara, Grant, Simon, Nora, Officer Price, herself, Evelyn, Julian. 9 people, 2 dead, 7 alive. But something about the count suddenly felt wrong, not because someone was missing, because someone didn't belong. Behind her, the bedroom door creaked shut by itself. The lock clicked. Then every light in the room went out. Chapter 10. The Room That Shouldn't Exist. Darkness swallowed the bedroom. For one long second, no one moved. Then Officer Daniel Price's flashlight snapped on. Its narrow beam cut through the black, revealing floating dust particles where the light should have reflected from the mirror. Instead, the mirror was gone. Marcus frowned. What the? The wall where the mirror had hung was now an open doorway. Cold air drifted out from beyond it. Lena stepped closer. Nobody touches anything. Grant stared into the opening. That wasn't there. No, Lena said quietly. It wasn't. She swept her flashlight inside. A narrow staircase descended beneath the bedroom. Unlike the old stone passage beneath the library, this staircase was finished in polished wood. Someone had used it often. There wasn't a speck of dust. Nora whispered, I've worked here for 8 years, and I've never seen this. Lena wasn't surprised. Evelyn Vale had spent her career writing about hidden rooms. Apparently, she preferred living with them, too. One careful step at a time, Lena descended. The others followed. The staircase opened into a surprisingly modern room. Bright white walls, steel filing cabinets, multiple computer monitors. Hard drives stacked on shelves. A server rack hummed softly in one corner. Officer Price looked around in disbelief. This isn't a writer's office. No, Lena replied. It's a surveillance center. 24 monitors lined the far wall. Everyone displayed a different room in Blackwater House. The dining room, the kitchen, the library, the basement archive, the tunnel, even Evelyn's bedroom. Marcus slowly turned in a circle. She watched us. Grant corrected him. No. He pointed toward shelves filled with neatly labeled storage drives. She watched everyone. Lena walked toward the monitors. Each screen displayed a timestamp. Most recordings stretched back years. One camera overlooked the front gate. Another watched the dock. Another pointed directly at the frozen lake. Then Lena noticed something that made her stop. One monitor was labeled Dinner, Live. The timestamp read 11:34:52 p.m. 7 minutes before Evelyn collapsed. The footage was still paused. Lena pressed play. Everyone gathered behind her. The recording began. Evelyn sat at the head of the table. Marcus argued about the estate. Grant stared into his wine. Simon quietly observed everyone. Nora served dinner. Clara barely spoke. Julian checked his watch. Everything looked ordinary. Then, Evelyn suddenly looked directly toward the hidden camera. She smiled. Not at her guests. At whoever would watch the recording later. She raised her wine glass, then said something. There was no audio, only video. Lena rewound, played it again. Grant leaned closer. I can read lips. Everyone turned toward him. You can? My mother was deaf. He watched Evelyn carefully. Once, twice, 3 times. Then his expression changed. What? Grant looked at Lena. She said, he swallowed. Watch the window. Every eye snapped toward the video. The dining room window behind Evelyn reflected the storm outside. At first, nothing. Then a movement, not inside the room, outside. Someone walked past the window, slowly. A tall figure, long coat, wide-brimmed hat, face hidden. Marcus stared. There. Price paused the recording. The figure stood frozen in the reflection, not perfectly clear, but visible. Nora whispered, there really was someone else. Lena shook her head. Maybe. She zoomed in digitally. The image became grainy. The figure blurred. Then something caught her eye. Not the person, the reflection. The angle was wrong. She looked back toward the real dining room monitor, then toward the paused image. The window couldn't reflect that. Price frowned. What do you mean? The camera is facing the table. She pointed. The reflection should show the chandelier, not the outside walkway. Grant looked again. She was right. The figure wasn't reflected in the glass. It had been added to the recording. Simon whispered, so someone altered the footage. Lena nodded slowly, which means someone wanted us to believe an outsider was here. Marcus crossed his arms. Can you prove when it was altered? Before Lena could answer, one monitor flickered, then another. One by one, every screen in the room turned black. A single line of white text appeared across all 24 monitors. You are watching the wrong story. Silence. The words vanished. A new video began playing automatically. Not security footage, a home video. Summer. Bright sunshine. Blackwater House. Children laughing near the dock. Little Lena. Little Clara. And standing beside them, a smiling woman with auburn hair. Anna Cross, Lena's mother. Anna looked into the camera. She laughed. Then she knelt beside both girls and held up a small silver locket. Inside the locket was a photograph. The camera zoomed in just enough for everyone in the room to see it. There were 3 children in the picture. Not 2. Marcus frowned. Who's the 3rd girl? Lena's heart pounded. She didn't know. Neither did Clara, but someone had scratched the 3rd child's face completely out of the photograph. The video stopped. Every monitor went black again. Then a printer in the corner suddenly whirred to life. Paper slowly emerged. 1 page, then another, then another. Lena walked over and picked up the first sheet. At the top, in Evelyn Vale's familiar style, was a title. The invitation list. Below it were 7 names: Marcus Vale, Clara Vale, Grant Holloway, Dr. Simon Reed, Julian Price, Detective Lena Cross, and one final name. The ink had been smeared. Only the first 2 letters remained visible. D.A. The rest had been deliberately erased. Officer Price stared at the page. There were 7 invitations. Lena nodded. Yes. Grant looked at the final line. Who begins with Da? Nobody answered. Then Officer Price slowly looked down at his own chest. His name badge read, Daniel Price. The room fell silent. Price looked genuinely stunned. "No?" He shook his head. "I never received an invitation." Lena looked from the paper to Daniel, then back again. If Daniel Price wasn't invited, why was his name on Evelyn Vale's invitation list? And if he had been invited, why couldn't he remember? Chapter 11. The Forgotten Invitation. No one spoke. Officer Daniel Price stared at the invitation list as though it belonged to someone else. His voice was barely audible. "I've never seen this before." Marcus laughed. "That's exactly what I'd say." Price ignored him. His eyes never left the paper. Lena stepped closer. "When did you first receive the dispatch call tonight?" Price answered immediately. 11:48 p.m. "You remember the exact time?" "I wrote it down in my patrol log." "And before that?" "I was on Highway 17 responding to a disabled vehicle." "Alone?" "Yes." Lena watched his face. No hesitation. No wandering eyes. No searching for an answer. Either he was telling the truth, or he'd rehearsed it perfectly. She handed him the invitation list. "Look at the last line." Price did. The partially erased name. DA. His expression didn't change. "I don't know what you want me to say." "I want you to tell me if Evelyn Vale ever contacted you." "No." "A phone call?" "No." "An email?" "No." "A letter?" "No." Grant stepped forward. "Then why is your name on her invitation list?" Price looked at him. "I don't know." Simon folded his arms. "Unless—" Everyone looked at him. Simon continued carefully. "Daniel wasn't invited as a guest." Lena frowned. "What do you mean?" Simon pointed to the list. "Evelyn invited 6 people to dinner." He tapped the final line. "But perhaps she invited one more person to investigate." Silence. Marcus scoffed. "You think she invited the police before she died?" Simon nodded once. "She's already proven she planned tonight." Lena considered it. It wasn't impossible. Evelyn had predicted her arrival. She'd left manuscript pages addressed to the detective. Why not summon an officer as well? Price shook his head. "No." His voice had become firmer. "If Evelyn contacted me, I'd remember." "Would you?" The question formed in Lena's mind before she realized she'd thought it. "Would you remember? Or had someone made sure you didn't?" A sharp electronic chirp interrupted the silence. One of the surveillance monitors had come back to life. The screen displayed only one image. The front gate, snow still falling. The timestamp was live. 1:27 a.m. Marcus pointed. "Someone's there." A pair of headlights appeared beyond the iron gate. They cut through the storm. Growing brighter. A vehicle. Everyone moved closer to the monitor. The vehicle stopped outside the locked entrance. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Heavy winter coat. Flashlight. He walked toward the intercom. Lena leaned closer. She recognized him instantly. Sheriff Thomas Granger. Relief washed across the room. Marcus actually smiled. Finally. Price reached for the intercom controls beneath the monitor. "I can buzz him in." He pressed the button. Nothing happened. He tried again. Still, nothing. The gate remained locked. Sheriff Granger spoke into the intercom. There was no audio, only video. He looked frustrated. He tried his radio, then his phone. Finally, he looked toward the camera, raised one finger, and wrote something on a small notepad. He held it toward the lens. Lena read the message. "Don't let him out." The room froze. Marcus looked around. "What does that mean?" Grant whispered. "He knows." Simon frowned. "Knows what?" Lena's heartbeat quickened. Granger wasn't warning them about someone outside. He was warning them about someone already inside. She looked slowly around the room. Marcus, Grant, Simon, Nora, Clara, Daniel, one of them. But which one? The monitor suddenly filled with static. Granger disappeared. The picture returned a second later. The gate stood empty. The sheriff was gone. Only fresh snow drifted beneath the security light. Price stared. He couldn't have walked away that fast. Lena checked the timestamp. Only 3 seconds had passed. 3 seconds. Not enough time for a man to vanish. Grant whispered, "We're watching another recording." Lena nodded. Yes. She looked at the monitor controls. "Someone is choosing what we see." As if responding to her words, another screen came alive. Then another. Within seconds, all 24 monitors were active again. Each displayed a different room inside Blackwater House. Every room, except one. Monitor. 12 remained black. Lena walked closer. A handwritten label beneath it read, "Panic Room." Marcus frowned. "There's another room?" Nora slowly nodded. "I've never found it." Grant looked toward the walls. Apparently Evelyn didn't want anyone to. Lena touched the dark monitor. It was warm, still receiving power, just no image. She looked at Price. "Find the house blueprints." Price searched the filing shelves. Minutes passed, then... "I found them." He unfolded a large architectural drawing across Evelyn's desk. The group gathered around. The first floor, the second floor, the basement, the hidden passage, everything they'd already discovered. Then Lena noticed something. A section of the house, with no rooms, just empty space. Nearly 400 square feet, right in the center of Blackwater House. Marcus stared. "That's impossible." Grant measured the walls with his eyes. "He's right." Simon whispered, "The house is larger on the inside than the plans allow." Lena looked at the blank space. One hidden study, one hidden archive, one hidden tunnel. And now, one hidden room that didn't officially exist. She traced the outline with her finger. The empty space sat directly behind the dining room fireplace, exactly where Evelyn had died. Then Clara quietly said something no one expected. "I know how to get in." Everyone turned. Lena met her eyes. "How?" Clara looked toward the dining room. "When I was little," she hesitated, "Evelyn told me there was one room in this house." That should never be opened." A loud metallic thud echoed from somewhere behind the fireplace. The walls trembled. Then, slowly, a narrow seam appeared in the stone, hidden for decades. A door was opening. Chapter 12. The Panic Room. The stone door groaned as it opened. Dust drifted from the seams. Cold air rolled out, carrying the scent of cedar, old paper, and something else. Perfume. Evelyn's perfume, fresh enough that every person in the hallway noticed. Marcus looked toward Lena. She was in there. "No," Simon said quietly. "That scent is too strong." Lena looked at him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying someone was in there recently." Officer Price aimed his flashlight into the darkness. The beam revealed a narrow corridor ending at a steel door. Unlike every hidden room they had discovered so far, this one looked modern. Electronic keypad, fingerprint scanner, heavy reinforced hinges. Grant let out a low whistle. "This isn't a panic room." Lena nodded. "No. It's a vault." The steel door stood slightly open. Someone had entered. Someone had left. She drew her weapon. "Everyone stays behind me." One careful step at a time, she crossed the threshold. The room beyond was surprisingly elegant. A fireplace burned quietly in the corner. Leather chairs faced one another across a small table. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined every wall. There was a coffee service. Crystal glasses, fresh flowers. The room looked lived in, not abandoned, not forgotten, used. Recently. Clara stepped inside and slowly turned in a circle. "I've been here." Everyone looked at her. "What?" She pressed a hand against her forehead. "I remember." Her voice trembled. "Evelyn used to bring me here when I had nightmares." Marcus frowned. "You never told anyone." "I didn't remember." Lena walked toward the desk in the center of the room. Everything on it had been arranged with impossible precision. One fountain pen, one leather journal, one antique pocket watch, one sealed envelope. The envelope bore a single name. Clara. Clara stared at it. "I don't want to open it." Lena looked at her gently. "You may not have a choice." Clara slowly broke the seal. Inside was a handwritten letter. Not typed, not printed. Written in Evelyn's unmistakable script. Clara began reading aloud. "My dearest Clara, if you are reading this, then I have failed. Either I am dead, or I waited too long to tell you the truth." Clara's voice began to shake. "Everything you believe about your childhood is incomplete," Marcus muttered. "Of course." Clara ignored him. "You were never adopted because your mother abandoned you." She stopped. The room was silent. She continued. "You were hidden." Grant looked toward Lena. "Hidden?" Clara swallowed hard. "Your mother begged me to protect you." Tears filled Clara's eyes. She believed someone would come for you. Marcus looked confused. "Who?" Clara kept reading. "I promised I would never let them find you." Lena noticed something. The wording, not him, not her. Them, a group, an organization, a family. The letter continued. "If you have found this room, then Detective Lena Cross is probably standing beside you." Clara slowly lowered the page. Everyone turned toward Lena. Grant whispered, "She knew." Lena took the letter carefully. The next line made her pulse quicken. "Lena, if Clara has reached this room, then you are finally close enough to hear the truth." There was more. Much more. Several pages. Lena kept reading silently. Her expression slowly changed. Price noticed first. "What is it?" Lena didn't answer. She read another page, then another. Finally, she looked up. This changes everything. Marcus crossed his arms. Are you planning to share with the rest of us? Lena looked at Clara. I think Evelyn lied to every one of us. Grant laughed bitterly. We already knew that. No. Lena folded the letter. I mean every one of us. Simon stepped forward. What did she say? Lena hesitated. Then the lights in the vault flickered. Once, twice. The fireplace went out. Every monitor in the surveillance room beyond the hidden passage suddenly flashed white. A calm female voice echoed through hidden speakers. Not Evelyn. Not mechanical. Someone live. Someone listening. Good evening. Every head snapped upward. The voice continued. I apologize for interrupting. Lena tightened her grip on the letter. Who's there? A soft chuckle answered. You've been asking the wrong question all night. Silence, and then, the correct question is, who's missing? The speakers clicked off. No one moved. Marcus looked around the room. We're all here. Grant slowly counted. Lena, Price, Clara, Marcus, Nora, Simon, myself. 7. He frowned. Wait. Everyone looked toward Nora. She was gone. Her place beside the doorway was empty. The hallway outside the vault was silent. No footsteps, no scream, no sound at all. Just one thing remained where Nora had been standing. A black envelope. Lena picked it up. On the front, written in blue ink, were 4 words. For the real killer. Chapter 13. The envelope. No one moved. Lena stared at the black envelope resting on the floor where Nora had been standing only seconds earlier. It hadn't fallen. It hadn't drifted. It had been placed there. Carefully, deliberately. Officer Daniel Price swept his flashlight down the corridor. Nora! Only silence answered. Marcus took one cautious step into the hallway. She couldn't have disappeared. Grant looked toward the hidden passage. Neither could the woman in the red scarf. Simon remained near the vault door, his eyes fixed on the envelope. Don't touch it. Lena looked at him. You think it's trapped. I think Evelyn never did anything without layers. Lena crouched beside the envelope. No wires, no strange odor, no unusual weight, only elegant handwriting across the front. For the real killer. She slipped on a fresh pair of gloves before lifting it. Inside was a single folded sheet. Not another manuscript page, a handwritten note. She unfolded it slowly. The first line sent a chill through the room. If you are reading this, then you believe the killer is still alive. Marcus frowned. What does that mean? Lena continued reading. You are wrong. Grant stepped closer. What? Lena's eyes moved down the page. The person who murdered me died years ago. Silence. The room felt smaller. Marcus broke it first. That's impossible. Simon shook his head slowly. No. Lena looked up. You've thought of something. Simon hesitated, then nodded. Evelyn didn't say the person who poisoned her died years ago. What are you saying? I'm saying she used the word murdered. Grant frowned. There's a difference. Simon looked toward Evelyn's empty chair in the dining room beyond the corridor. If Evelyn believed someone destroyed her life years ago, then Perhaps tonight wasn't revenge. Lena folded the note carefully. Perhaps tonight was a confession. Before anyone could respond, Clara spoke. Quietly, almost to herself. She was terrified. Everyone looked at her. Who? Evelyn. Clara walked slowly to the fireplace inside the vault. When I was little, she used to wake up screaming. Marcus looked surprised. She never told me that. She wouldn't. Clara ran her fingers across the stone mantel. She always said someone was coming. Grant asked, Who? Clara closed her eyes. I don't know. She opened them again, but every time she checked the locks, she counted. Lena's attention sharpened. Counted what? The guests. Marcus frowned. What guests? Clara looked around the room. I thought it was a game. What kind of game? Clara swallowed. She would ask me, How many are at the table? Grant exchanged a look with Lena. The table. 7 place settings, the 8th card, the last guest. Lena suddenly remembered the home movie. 3 children, 1 face scratched away. She turned to Clara. When you were little, did you know another child? Clara froze. The color left her face. Very slowly, she nodded. I think so. Marcus stared. You think? She pressed both hands against her temples. I can't remember her name. Lena stepped closer. What do you remember? Clara shut her eyes. A swing. A red scarf. A music box. Her breathing became uneven. And, she gasped, there was blood. Simon immediately moved beside her. Easy. Clara shook her head violently. No. I almost remember. Then, a loud knock echoed through the house. 3 sharp strikes. Everyone looked toward the hallway. Another knock. This time from the front door. Marcus whispered, Someone made it through the storm. Officer Price checked his watch. No one could. The knocking came again. Slower now, deliberate. Lena led the group back through the library toward the foyer. The massive front door stood exactly as they had left it. Locked. Snow blew against the stained glass panels. Another knock. Lena looked through the peephole. No one. She unlocked the deadbolt cautiously and pulled the door open. The icy wind rushed inside. The porch was empty. No footprints, no vehicle, nothing. Only a small package resting neatly on the welcome mat, wrapped in brown paper, tied with black string. Marcus whispered, Don't touch it. Lena knelt anyway. Attached to the string was a gift tag. It read, To Detective Lena Cross. She carried the package inside and set it carefully on the foyer table. Price cut the string with his pocket knife. Inside was an old wooden music box. Clara's breath caught. I know that. Lena looked at her. You're sure? Clara nodded. It belonged to... She stopped. Her face tightened with frustration. It belonged to someone. Lena slowly wound the key. The music box began to play. A soft lullaby filled the foyer. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, hidden beneath the melody, another sound emerged. A voice. Faint. Recorded. A little girl's voice. Barely more than a whisper. Lena. The detective felt every hair on her arms stand up. The voice continued. If you found my music box, don't trust Daniel. Officer Price's face drained of color. I've never heard that before. The music stopped. The room fell silent. Marcus slowly turned toward Daniel. Grant took one careful step backward. Simon watched everyone without speaking. Lena looked from the music box to Daniel, then back again. The child's voice had known her name, and it had just accused the only police officer trapped inside Blackwater House. Chapter 14. The Music Box. No one spoke. The final note from the music box still seemed to linger in the foyer. Don't trust Daniel. Officer Daniel Price stood perfectly still. His expression wasn't anger. It wasn't outrage. It was confusion. Real confusion. Lena had spent 14 years reading suspects. Confusion was difficult to fake. Fear was easy. Confusion wasn't. Marcus was the first to react. He took 2 steps away from Daniel. I knew it. Daniel looked at him. You know absolutely nothing. Grant slowly moved toward the staircase. If that recording is real, then someone wanted Lena to hear it. Simon remained calm. Or someone wanted us to. Lena looked at him. You think it was staged? I think everything in this house is staged. Clara still held the music box in trembling hands. I've heard this song before. Everyone turned. She closed her eyes. Evelyn used to play it when we were children. We? Clara nodded slowly. I wasn't alone. Marcus frowned. There were no other children here. Clara looked at him. I know what I remember, but I don't know why I remember it. Lena gently took the music box from Clara. She turned it over. The wood was scarred with age. Along the bottom was a brass plate. Someone had scratched initials into it years before. LC. Beneath them, almost invisible. Another set. CMA Lena traced the letters with her thumb. Elsie is me. Clara whispered, then CM must be... She stopped. The name refused to come, like a word trapped behind glass. Officer Price looked toward Lena. The little girl on the recording... Could she be Clara? Lena shook her head. No. Why not? Listen to the recording again. Price rewound the music box. The melody played. Then... Lena. The little girl's voice returned. If you found my music box, don't trust Daniel. The recording ended. Lena looked at Clara. That's not your voice? Clara listened carefully. After a long silence, she nodded. No. Marcus folded his arms. So whose voice is it? Nobody answered. Lena looked back at the initials. LCCM. Then something clicked. The scratched-out face in the photograph. 3 children, not 2. 3. The third child. Her initials. CMA Grant broke the silence. You're thinking of the photograph. Lena nodded. The child whose face was scratched out. Simon frowned. You think she existed? Lena looked at him. I think someone wanted us to forget she existed. Marcus laughed uneasily. How do you erase a child? No one answered. Because no one knew. Officer Price cleared his throat. We still have a sheriff outside. Lena looked toward the front door. If that was really Sheriff Granger... Price stared. You think it wasn't? I think we've already seen altered recordings. Grant nodded. The gate camera could have been another one. Marcus looked exhausted. So now we're doubting everything. Lena met his eyes. No, we're learning what deserves doubt. She walked back into the surveillance room. 24 monitors glowed softly. Most displayed empty rooms. One showed the frozen lake, another the library, another the basement archive. Monitor 12. The panic room remained black. Then, without warning, every screen switched to the same image. A child, standing alone, facing away from the camera. Red winter coat, long dark hair, snow falling around her. Nobody moved. The child slowly turned. Her face was blurred, as though someone had deliberately scratched the film. Then she raised one hand, pointing, not at the camera, behind it. Lena turned instinctively. Nothing. When she looked back, the child was gone. The monitors displayed only static. Then words appeared across every screen. Find the third chair. The message vanished. Price looked around. What third chair? Marcus frowned. There are hundreds of chairs in this place. Grant's eyes narrowed. No. He looked toward the dining room. The dining table. Lena understood immediately. The seating arrangement. They hurried back into the dining room. The table remained exactly as they'd left it. Evelyn's chair, Julian's empty chair, the remaining seats. Lena walked slowly around the table, then stopped. Clara stood beside her. What is it? Lena pointed. When I arrived, I counted 7 place settings. Clara nodded. I remember. But look at the chairs. Everyone did. Marcus counted aloud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then he stopped. His face lost color. There are 8. Silence. 8 chairs, 7 place settings, 1 chair, had no plate, no glass, no napkin, no name card. It sat slightly farther back than the others, almost hidden in the shadows, as though someone had intentionally tried to make it disappear. Grant whispered, How did we miss that? Lena didn't answer. She walked toward the empty chair. It was heavier than the others, older, different wood. She ran her fingers beneath the seat. Something was taped there, a small envelope. This one was yellow, brittle with age, not black, not part of Evelyn's recent game. The front simply read, For the third child. Clara's breathing quickened. Marcus took a step back. Simon removed his glasses slowly. Lena opened the envelope. Inside was a faded Polaroid photograph. 3 children smiled into the camera. Little Lena, little Clara, and a third little girl between them. This time, her face had not been scratched away. On the back of the photograph, written in blue ink, were 6 words. One of us never came home. Before anyone could speak, the grandfather clock in the foyer began to chime. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then it chimed a 9th time. The house fell silent. Every light went out, and somewhere upstairs, a little girl laughed. Chapter 15. The 9th chime. The laughter lasted only a second. A child's laugh. Light. Playful, impossible. Then the darkness swallowed it. No one spoke. No one moved. The old house seemed to hold its breath. Officer Daniel Price clicked his flashlight back on. Its beam swept across the dining room. The 8th chair remained exactly where it had been. The faded photograph still rested in Lena's hand. 3 smiling children. 1 sentence. One of us never came home. Marcus's voice cracked. Did everyone hear that? Grant answered quietly. Yes. Simon didn't. He was staring at the grandfather clock in the foyer. The clock. Lena looked up. What about it? It struck 9. Marcus frowned. So? Simon slowly removed his glasses. It's 1:38 in the morning. Silence. The old clock should never have chimed 9 times. Lena walked into the foyer. The pendulum swung steadily. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The brass face showed exactly 1:38, yet the mechanism had counted 9. She crouched and examined the base. Fresh scratches marked the hardwood floor. Someone had moved the clock recently. Price. He joined her. Help me. Together they carefully pulled the massive grandfather clock away from the wall. Behind it, nothing. Just old plaster. Marcus sighed. So much for that. Lena wasn't looking at the wall. She was looking at the floor. One floorboard was newer than the rest. Its varnish was darker. The nails cleaner. Someone had replaced it. She reached for the fireplace poker leaning against the wall and carefully pried upward. The board lifted. Beneath it rested a narrow metal box. No lock, no label. Only dust. Grant whispered, "Another secret." Lena opened it. Inside lay 9 small brass keys. Each key wore a tiny numbered tag. 1 through 9. Except key number 3 was missing. Marcus frowned. What do they open? Lena turned the keys over in her palm. Each carried the same maker's mark, the same locksmith stamp she'd already seen. The initials engraved into the metal stopped her cold. A C. Anna Cross. Her mother. Price looked at her. You recognize them? Lena nodded slowly. My mother collected antique locks. Grant looked surprised. How do you know that? Lena smiled sadly. I didn't. She stared at the keys. But somehow, I do now. Fragments, small pieces of memory, a workshop, the smell of cedar, her mother's hands polishing brass, a little girl laughing. 3 little girls? No, 2 girls and someone else. The memory vanished before she could catch it. Simon watched her carefully. You're remembering. I'm trying. Clara stepped closer. What if... Everyone looked at her. What if the missing 3rd key belongs to the 3rd child? Marcus rubbed his forehead. This keeps coming back to that. Grant nodded. Because everything starts there. Lena carefully placed the keys into an evidence pouch. Nothing in this house is random. Just then, Officer Price's radio crackled. Not static. A voice. Daniel. Everyone froze. Price slowly lifted the radio. This is Officer Price. Silence, then... Daniel. The voice sounded distant, weak, almost underwater. Price frowned. Who's calling? Help. Lena took one step closer. She recognized the voice. Sheriff Thomas Granger. Price looked at the display. No signal. The radio should have been dead, yet Granger's voice continued. Lake. Static burst through the speaker. More static. The car. Then nothing. The radio died. Marcus looked toward the front windows. The lake. Grant whispered, "The car." Lena felt her pulse quicken. Anna Cross. The crash and the lake. Every clue pointed there. She turned to Price. "We're going outside." Marcus stared at her. "In this storm?" "We're done waiting for the house to tell us what happened." Simon shook his head. "That's exactly what whoever planned this wants." Lena met his eyes. "Maybe." She picked up her coat. "But the truth has been buried long enough." The group stepped onto the front porch. The cold hit like a wall. Snow whipped across the frozen shoreline. The lake stretched into darkness beneath the moonlight. Officer Price swept his flashlight across the ice. Nothing. Then Clara pointed. There. Far out on the frozen surface. A single lantern burned. Its yellow light flickered in the wind. No footprints led to it. No vehicle. No person. Just one lonely lantern. Waiting. Marcus whispered, "Who would put that out there?" Grant didn't answer. Neither did Lena, because she had noticed something else. Halfway between the shore and the lantern. A line of small footprints crossed the snow-covered ice. Bare feet. The same size as the impossible footprint they'd found inside the house. They began at the shoreline and ended at a dark patch beneath the ice. Lena knelt. She brushed away fresh snow. The frozen surface became clearer. Beneath it, she saw metal, a rusted roof, a shattered windshield, a steering wheel, a car. Clara gasped. Marcus stumbled backward. Price whispered, "My God." Then Lena saw a pale hand pressed against the inside of the driver's window. She froze. The hand wasn't a skeleton. It wasn't decomposed. It looked fresh, as if someone inside the submerged car had only just placed it against the glass. Before anyone could react, the hand moved, one slow tap, against the window, then another, and another. Chapter 16. Beneath the Ice. Beneath the ice. No one moved. The hand tapped the inside of the windshield again. Once, twice, 3 times. Then it disappeared into the darkness beneath the dashboard. Marcus stumbled backward, nearly falling onto the snow. That's impossible. Grant never took his eyes off the frozen lake. Tell me we all saw that. We did, Lena said. Her voice was calm, too calm. The kind of calm that only arrived when panic had already knocked and been refused. Officer Daniel Price swept his flashlight over the ice. The submerged sedan rested at an angle, its front end buried in dark silt beneath the frozen water. The driver's side window was fractured. The windshield carried a spider web of old cracks. Everything about the vehicle suggested it had been there for years. Except the hand. Lena knelt. She pressed one gloved palm against the ice. Cold. Solid. Nearly 8 inches thick. No one could have survived beneath it. No one. She looked toward the lantern burning 50 yards away. Price. I'm already thinking it. The lantern. It wasn't there when we arrived. No. She stood. And someone wanted us to look at the car. Simon stepped carefully onto the ice. Detective? Lena held out a hand. Stay back. The weight. I said stay back. The ice gave a low groan beneath her boots, not cracking, complaining. She took another cautious step. The lantern burned steadily ahead. Its flame never seemed to flicker despite the wind. Grant frowned. Do you see that? What? The flame. Lena stopped. He was right. The fire wasn't moving and it looked artificial. She continued forward until she reached it. The lantern wasn't burning at all. Inside was a small battery-powered light, recently installed, still warm. Someone had placed it here tonight. She lifted the lantern. Tied beneath it with black string was another envelope. Of course. She untied it. The handwriting was Evelyn's. Detective Cross, if you've come to the lake before sunrise, you've finally stopped chasing the murder and started chasing the truth. Lena continued reading. The lake has never hidden a body. Her heartbeat slowed. She looked back toward the submerged car. It has hidden a lie. Grant called from the shore. What does it say? She didn't answer yet. She kept reading. Do not break the ice. Not until you know who drove the car into the water. A pause. Then the final line. Because the person everyone believes died was sitting in the passenger seat. Lena lowered the letter. Passenger, not driver. Every report, every newspaper article, every memory had always described Anna Cross as the driver. She looked down again at the car. If Anna hadn't been driving, who had? A sharp metallic click echoed behind her. She spun around. Officer Price had dropped to one knee. His flashlight pointed toward the shoreline. What is it? Lena called. He didn't answer. He simply kept staring. Lena hurried back. Halfway across the ice, she saw it. Footprints. Not the small barefoot prints. Adult boot prints. Fresh. Deep. They came from the woods, crossed the shoreline, walked directly to the lantern. Then turned around and returned to the trees. Grant studied them. Those were made tonight. Simon nodded. Within the hour. Marcus looked toward the dark forest. So whoever planted the lantern is still out there. A gust of wind swept across the lake. The trees creaked. For one brief second, Lena thought she saw someone standing between the pines. Tall, motionless, watching. When she aimed her flashlight, nothing, only drifting snow. Clara suddenly gasped. Detective! Lena turned. Clara was pointing at the submerged car. The driver's door had slowly drifted open beneath the ice. No one had touched it. Dark water flowed in and out of the cabin. Inside, the front seats were empty. Lena stared. The hand, Price whispered. It wasn't a person. Something pale floated upward inside the cabin. It bumped gently against the roof. A mannequin arm. Its rubber fingers curled stiffly toward the shattered windshield. Grant let out a long breath. So the tapping, Lena nodded. The current. The arm had shifted with the movement of the water, striking the glass from inside. Not a ghost. Not a miracle. Physics. Marcus exhaled so hard it almost became a laugh. I've never been so relieved to see a fake hand. But Lena wasn't looking at the mannequin. She was looking into the driver's seat. The seatbelt was still fastened. Around the buckle hung a tarnished silver locket. Even beneath the ice, she recognized it. She had seen it in the old home movie. Around her mother's neck, Anna Cross's locket. And inside that locket, if her memory was right, was the only photograph that had never been altered. Sir Chapter 17. The Locket. The wind swept across the frozen lake, carrying fine snow over the ice until the boot prints were almost gone. Lena never took her eyes off the silver locket. It hung from the seatbelt buckle beneath the dark water, swaying gently with the slow current inside the submerged car. Marcus stepped beside her. "So that's it?" Lena looked at him. "What?" "The answer." She shook her head. "No. It's the beginning." Grant studied the vehicle. If that really belonged to Anna, how did it stay in the car all these years? Simon answered before Lena could. "It didn't have to." Everyone looked at him. "The locket could have been placed there recently." Marcus frowned. "By who?" Simon looked toward Blackwater House. "The same person who's been arranging every clue we've found tonight." Lena nodded. "Exactly." She crouched near the edge of the ice. "The question isn't whether the locket is real." She looked at the submerged sedan. "It's whether we're supposed to find it." Officer Daniel Price swept his flashlight across the shoreline. "We're not getting into that lake tonight." "No." Lena stood. "But daylight changes everything." Grant looked surprised. "You think we're leaving?" "I think whoever designed this wants us reacting instead of thinking." Marcus folded his arms. "So we just walk away?" "We go back inside." Marcus laughed. "Back into the murder house." Lena looked toward the mansion rising above the lake. "That's where the answers are." The group returned to Blackwater House in silence. Snow clung to their coats. Their boots left wet tracks across the marble foyer. For the first time since Lena had arrived, the house felt different. Not threatening, watching. She looked toward the grandfather clock. It read 2:11 a.m. No strange chimes, no hidden messages, just the steady swing of the pendulum. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Too steady. Lena stepped closer. Officer Price noticed. "What is it?" She listened. "The clock. What about it?" "It's keeping perfect time." Marcus frowned. "Isn't that what clocks do?" Lena smiled faintly. "Not antique clocks after a power outage." The emergency lights had failed twice. The surveillance room had gone dark. Hidden doors had opened. Yet somehow the grandfather clock had never lost a second. She slowly opened its front panel. Inside, the pendulum swung exactly as expected. But behind it, a thin electrical cable disappeared into the wall. Grant stepped closer. "That's new." Lena traced the wire with her flashlight. "It doesn't belong." Price looked toward the staircase. "Where does it go?" Lena closed the panel. "We'll find out." Back in the study, the group gathered around Evelyn's desk. The vault door remained open. The cassette recorder still sat waiting. 7 tapes. One marked, "The Truth." Marcus looked at it. "We've ignored that one long enough." Lena nodded. "I agree." She picked up the cassette. The label was worn from handling. Unlike the others, this tape had been played many times. She inserted it into the recorder. The machine clicked. The tape began to turn. Static. Then Evelyn's voice. Calm. Measured. Very much alive. If you've chosen this tape before finding the truth... Stop listening, Grant sighed. Very funny. The recording continued. You'll only misunderstand everything. A pause. If you've already found the locket. Every head turned toward Lena. Then you're finally asking the correct question. Lena leaned closer. Evelyn continued. Everyone believes Anna Cross died in the lake. Another pause. No one ever asked who reported seeing the crash. Marcus frowned. I never thought about it. Lena had. The accident report, the newspaper clipping, the witness statement. She had read them all. Only now did she realize. She had never questioned the witness. Evelyn's voice continued. The witness lied. Silence. Simon looked thoughtful. Grant whispered, So the accident was staged. Perhaps, Lena said. The tape continued. Find the witness, and you'll find the murderer. Click. The tape ended. No dramatic music, no final explanation. Just silence. Marcus threw up his hands. That's it? Grant rubbed his temples. She gives us another riddle. Lena wasn't listening anymore. She was staring at the accident report she'd recovered from the basement. Her eyes scanned the faded pages. Driver, weather conditions, road conditions, vehicle description, witness. Then she stopped. The witness's name. How had she missed it? She read it again, slowly. Officer Daniel Price noticed the change in her expression. What is it? Lena looked up. The witness wasn't a stranger. Marcus stepped closer. Who was it? Lena met each of their eyes before answering. The only person who claimed to see Anna Cross drive into the lake. She held up the report. Was Evelyn Vale. No one spoke. Outside, thunder rolled across the frozen water. Inside, every clue from the night seemed to shift. If Evelyn had been the sole witness, then every version of Anna Cross's death, every newspaper article, every police report, every memory built from them, had rested on the testimony of one woman, and that woman had spent a lifetime writing stories no one could solve. The question was no longer whether Evelyn had lied. The question was why. Chapter 18. The Witness. The room remained silent. No one reached for the tape recorder. No one looked away from the accident report in Lena's hands. Outside, the wind rattled the windows of Blackwater House. Inside, the truth had quietly changed direction. Lena placed the report on Evelyn's desk. Every official version of Anna Cross's death begins with one assumption. Marcus looked down at the report. That she drove into the lake. Exactly. Lena tapped the witness statement. And every investigator accepted it because the witness was considered credible. Grant let out a humorless laugh. A best-selling mystery writer, Simon corrected him. A woman everyone trusted. Lena nodded, which made her the perfect witness. Officer Daniel Price leaned over the report. The responding deputy never questioned her. He questioned her. Lena flipped another page, but only after the vehicle disappeared beneath the ice. Price frowned. There was never another witness. No. There were no photographs. No. No recovered body. No. Marcus slowly backed away from the desk. So for 26 years, everyone believed Anna died because Evelyn said she did. Lena folded the report shut, and nobody ever proved otherwise. Clara stood quietly near the fireplace. Her voice was barely above a whisper. If Anna didn't die that night, where did she go? No one answered, because nobody knew. Lena crossed to the bookshelves lining the vault. Earlier they had seemed ordinary. Now they looked different. Every shelf had been arranged with obsessive precision. Mystery novels, legal texts, medical journals, family histories, bound newspaper archives. Nothing appeared out of place. She ran her fingertips along the spines. Dust coated most of them, except one. A thick black ledger, recently handled. She eased it from the shelf. No title, no author's name, just a leather cover worn smooth by years of use. Inside, not writing, photographs, hundreds of them. Each page documented a different year, birthdays, Christmas dinners, graduations, charity galas, book signings, family vacations. Every photograph included Evelyn. Many included Marcus. Some included Clara. A few included Grant. Then Lena stopped turning pages. A photograph dated May 14th, 26 years earlier. 3 women stood together on the front steps of Blackwater House. Evelyn Vale, Anna Cross, and a third woman. Grant looked over Lena's shoulder. I've never seen her. Neither had Lena. The woman wore a navy blue coat and smiled directly into the camera. Someone had written a caption beneath the picture. The Founders. Marcus frowned. Founders of what? Lena turned the page. Another photograph. The same 3 women standing beside a freshly installed sign. Most of the lettering had faded. Only the final 2 words remained legible. Society. Simon adjusted his glasses. Anna wasn't just Evelyn's friend. Grant nodded slowly. They built something together. Lena continued turning pages, meeting minutes, membership lists, financial records, letters. Everything belonged to the same organization. The name appeared again and again. The Hollow Circle Society. Officer Price looked puzzled. I've never heard of it. Neither have I, Lena said. But Evelyn kept everything. She flipped to the final page. The last photograph had been removed. Only 4 corners of old tape remained. Beneath the empty space, someone had written in blue ink, 3 founded it. 2 betrayed it. 1 survived it. Marcus looked toward Lena. Who's the 3rd founder? Before Lena could answer, a floorboard creaked, not upstairs, not in the hallway, inside the vault. Everyone turned. The room was empty. Then another creak. Lena slowly aimed her flashlight toward the far wall. One of the bookcases had shifted. Only slightly, enough to reveal a narrow gap behind it. Cold air drifted through the opening. Officer Price stepped beside her. Another passage? Lena shook her head. No. She pointed toward the floor. There aren't any tracks. The dust in front of the shelf remained untouched. No one had walked there. Grant whispered, Then how did it move? Lena approached carefully. The gap was only a few inches wide. She shined her flashlight inside. The beam reflected off polished brass. A wheel. A gear. An intricate clockwork mechanism hidden inside the wall. She smiled for the first time that night. "What is it?" Price asked. Lena looked back at the others. Blackwater House isn't just full of secret rooms. She gently pressed the shelf back into place. It was designed to create them. Marcus frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means someone could open passages, change walls, move evidence, and make people believe impossible things happened." Grant looked around the vault. "So the house itself is part of the murder." Lena nodded. "I think it always was." At that moment, a faint mechanical click echoed somewhere deep inside the walls. Then the grandfather clock in the foyer struck again. Once, twice, 3 times. It stopped after the 3rd chime. Lena looked at the others. "It isn't telling time." Simon understood first. "It's counting." "Yes." "But counting what?" Marcus asked. Lena looked toward the hidden mechanism behind the shelves. "I think it's counting down." Chapter 19. The Countdown. The 3rd chime echoed through the walls. Then silence. No hidden voice. No manuscript page. No recorded confession. Just silence. Lena had learned enough that night to distrust silence more than screams. She looked toward the grandfather clock in the foyer. It moved. Officer Daniel Price frowned. The clock. The pendulum. It stopped. "No!" Lena pointed. "It changed speed." Marcus stared at her. "You can tell that. My father repaired clocks." The words escaped before she realized she'd said them. Everyone looked at her. Grant spoke carefully. "I thought your father died before you were born." Lena blinked. "He did." Marcus frowned. "So—" She closed her eyes. Another memory surfaced. Not a memory. A story. One she'd been told so many times that it had become her own. She looked back at the clock. "No. My father didn't repair clocks." "Someone else did." Simon watched her with growing concern. "Your memories are correcting themselves." Lena opened her eyes. "No. They're separating." She looked around the room. "For years I've remembered stories." She tapped her temple. "But tonight, I'm beginning to remember facts." They returned to the foyer. The great clock stood exactly where it always had. Except now, Lena noticed something she'd overlooked before. There were 9 carved faces circling the wooden case. Children, each one holding a different object. A lantern, a book, a key, a music box, a feather, a compass, a chess piece, a rose, and the final child. Held nothing. The carving had been carefully scraped away. Grant leaned closer. Someone removed it. "No!" Lena traced the smooth wood. They removed the object. Marcus counted the figures. "There are 9. Price looked at the brass keys they'd recovered earlier. 9 keys." Simon added quietly. 9 chimes. Lena nodded. "And 1 missing key." She examined the empty hands of the final carving. There, barely visible beneath decades of polish, were 2 tiny letters. CM's Clara whispered, The third child. Price suddenly looked toward the front windows. Detective! Outside. The lantern on the frozen lake had gone out. Darkness covered the shoreline. Then another light appeared. Not on the ice. Inside Blackwater House. Upstairs. A single window illuminated itself. Everyone followed Price's flashlight. The light came from the third floor. Marcus frowned. I've lived around this house my whole life. There isn't a third floor. Grant slowly looked upward. There is now. Lena remembered the blueprints, the empty space, the hidden passages, the moving walls. Blackwater House had never been what it appeared to be. Stay together, she said. The staircase ended at what everyone believed was the top of the house. But Lena kept climbing. Past the landing, past a narrow service stair hidden behind old wallpaper, past a door disguised as part of the wall. Until she reached a level no blueprint had shown. The air was warmer here, cleaner. Someone had maintained it. A single hallway stretched ahead. 6 identical wooden doors lined either side. At the far end stood one larger black door. Above it, engraved in brass, were 2 words. Founder's Room. Marcus stared. What is this place? No one answered. Lena approached the first door. A brass plaque identified it. Evelyn Vale. She opened it. Inside was a bedroom, perfectly preserved. Not Evelyn's current room. Her room from decades earlier. Clothes hung neatly in the wardrobe. Old books lay open on the bedside table. A calendar on the wall still displayed a date from 26 years ago. Everything had been frozen. In time. Grant whispered. She kept it exactly as it was. Lena closed the door. The second room. Anna Cross. Her hand hesitated before turning the knob. The room beyond smelled faintly of cedar and lavender. A sketchbook rested on the desk. Paintbrushes stood in a glass jar. Family photographs covered one wall. Not crime scene photos. Not surveillance. Happy memories. A young Lena on a swing. Anna reading beside the fireplace. Clara building a snowman. And the third child. This time no face had been scratched away. A smiling girl with dark curls and bright green eyes. She couldn't have been older than 8. Across the bottom of the photograph, written in Anna's handwriting, were the words, 3 daughters, 1 promise. Lena's breath caught. 3. Clara stepped beside her. My mother. She stopped herself. No. She looked at Anna's smiling face. Our mother? The room went completely still. Marcus whispered, That's impossible. Before Lena could answer, a voice echoed from the hallway, not recorded, not mechanical, a living voice, soft, older but unmistakably familiar. You finally found it. Lena slowly turned, standing at the end of the hallway. Wrapped in the same faded red scarf was the mysterious woman. This time she didn't run. She simply smiled sadly. I've waited 26 years. She looked directly at Lena. To tell you what really happened the night your mother disappeared. Circusar. Chapter 20. The Woman in the Red Scarf. No one spoke. The woman stood motionless at the end of the hallway. Snowflakes clung to the faded red scarf draped over her shoulders, slowly melting onto the polished wood beneath her feet. for the first time all night. She wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was waiting. Lena lowered her flashlight. "Who are you?" The woman's eyes settled on her with quiet sadness. "My name is Catherine Monroe." Silence. Lena felt something tighten in her chest. Monroe. CM. The initials carved beneath the 9th child on the grandfather clock. The initials etched into the music box. The missing child. Grant spoke first. "Catherine, you knew Anna." A faint smile crossed Catherine's face. "I loved Anna." Marcus frowned. "You were sisters?" Catherine shook her head. "No. We chose each other." She slowly walked toward them. No one stopped her. No one drew a weapon. There was something in her eyes that made violence feel absurd. She stopped outside Anna Cross's preserved bedroom. "We met when we were 19. She looked around the room. Evelyn wanted to become a famous writer. Anna wanted to become a journalist. I wanted to become an architect. Grant looked puzzled. "An architect?" Catherine nodded. "I designed Blackwater House." Everyone stared. Marcus laughed once. "You're telling me you built this place?" "I designed every hidden passage, every moving wall, every secret room." Lena looked back down the hallway. "So the house was never meant to hide crimes." "No." Catherine smiled sadly. "It was built to protect people." The words settled over the group. "Protect people?" Lena asked quietly. "Protect them from whom?" Catherine's smile disappeared. "From the hollow circle." The name struck the room like a stone dropped into still water. Grant looked toward Lena. "The Society." Catherine nodded. "It began as a group of writers. A place to exchange ideas. But money changes people. Power changes them faster." Simon stepped forward. "Evelyn was part of it?" "Yes." "Anna?" "Yes." "And you?" "For a while." Marcus folded his arms. "So why all the secrecy?" Catherine looked toward the window overlooking the frozen lake. "Because someone inside the circle began destroying lives." She looked back at them. "They stole books. They stole identities. They blackmailed judges. They ruined families. They convinced the world fiction was more believable than truth." Grant slowly lowered his head. "Evelyn." Catherine nodded. At first she thought she could stop it, but eventually she became part of it. Silence. Lena stepped closer. "My mother." Catherine looked at her. "Anna discovered what they were doing, and she refused to stay quiet." Lena's voice barely came out. "So they killed her?" Catherine shook her head. "No." The answer stunned everyone. Marcus blinked. "What?" "Anna was never murdered." Grant frowned. "The lake. The accident. The witness statement." Catherine nodded once. Every bit of it was real. Then she added quietly, "Except the ending." Lena's pulse quickened. What happened? Catherine walked into Anna's room and gently picked up an old leather journal resting on the desk. She handed it to Lena. "Read the first page." Lena opened it carefully. Anna's handwriting filled the paper. "If you're reading this, then Evelyn finally kept her promise." Lena looked up. "Promise?" Catherine nodded. "The three of us made one." She pointed toward the childhood photograph on the wall. if anything happened. The children would survive, Clara whispered. The children. Catherine looked at both women. You. Then she looked toward the scratched-out third child in the photograph. And her. Lena's breath caught. Who was she? Catherine closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, tears shimmered in the corners. My daughter. Silence. The room seemed to shrink. Her name was Charlotte Monroe. Grant slowly exhaled. Charlotte. Catherine nodded. She was 8. The same age as you and Clara. Lena remembered the music box. The initials. CM. Everything had been pointing toward Charlotte all along. She disappeared the same night Anna vanished. Marcus stared. You mean she drowned too? Catherine looked directly at him. No. She was taken. The words hung in the air, taken. Not killed, not lost. Taken. Officer Price frowned. By who? Catherine's expression hardened for the first time. I don't know. The circle erased every record. They erased photographs. They erased school files. They even convinced people she had never existed. Lena looked down at the Polaroid of the 3 girls, the scratched-out face, the missing place setting, the 8th chair, the missing key. Every clue had been pointing toward a child the world had forgotten. Catherine stepped closer to Lena. Evelyn spent 26 years trying to find Charlotte. Lena looked up. And tonight? Catherine's eyes drifted toward the hallway. Tonight wasn't about exposing a killer. It was about finishing a promise. Before Lena could ask another question, a loud crash echoed from below. Glass shattered. Then came Marcus's voice from somewhere downstairs. No. The lights flickered once, twice. Then every hidden mechanism inside Blackwater House groaned at the same time. Deep beneath the floorboards, enormous gears began to turn. Catherine's face lost all color. They've started it. Lena looked at her. Started what? Catherine whispered only 3 words. The final chapter. Then the entire house shook. Chapter 21. The final chapter begins. The house shuddered beneath their feet. Not once, twice. Then a deep metallic groan echoed through Blackwater House, as though something enormous had awakened beneath its foundation. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Books slid from shelves. Far below, glass exploded. Marcus's voice echoed up the stairwell. Lena! She didn't hesitate. Everyone downstairs. Now! The group raced through the hidden hallway. Catherine Monroe stayed behind only long enough to glance back into Anna Cross's preserved room. She rested her fingertips against the doorframe, almost like saying goodbye. Then she followed. The foyer looked different. The grandfather clock had stopped. Its pendulum hung perfectly still. For the first time all night. Silence. No ticking, no chimes, nothing. Lena approached it carefully. The brass face no longer displayed the time. Instead, every hand pointed straight down. 6 o'clock. No, Catherine whispered. Lena looked at her. What is it? That's not a time. She pointed toward the floor beneath the clock. It's a direction. Officer Price crouched. Embedded in the hardwood beneath the clock was a tiny brass compass Rose Lena hadn't noticed before. The hour hand pointed directly toward the library. Grant looked around. So, something just unlocked. Catherine nodded. Evelyn built the house like a puzzle. Marcus frowned. You keep saying built. I helped, and she finished it. Lena looked toward the library doors. Let's go. The library was in chaos. Books lay scattered across the floor. One entire bookshelf had swung outward, revealing a narrow circular staircase descending into darkness. Not the archive, not the tunnel. Something deeper. The air drifting upward smelled of damp stone and machine oil. Price swept his flashlight down the spiral. I don't think this was on the blueprints. It wasn't, Catherine said. Only 3 people knew it existed. Evelyn, Anna, and me. Grant looked at her. You never told the police? Catherine smiled sadly. The police never asked the right questions. The staircase ended inside a vast underground chamber. No one spoke. The room stretched nearly the full length of Blackwater House. Stone pillars supported the ceiling. Copper pipes disappeared into the walls. Massive gears rested beneath glass panels in the floor. The entire mansion had been built atop a hidden mechanical foundation. Marcus slowly turned in a circle. My God! Catherine looked almost relieved. It's still here. Lena walked forward. In the center of the chamber stood a round oak table. 8 chairs surrounded it. Not 7. 8. Each chair bore a brass nameplate. Evelyn Vale, Anna Cross, Catherine Monroe, Grant Holloway, Marcus Vale, Simon Reed, Julian Price, and one final chair. Its nameplate had been removed. Only 2 empty screw holes remained. Clara stared. The 8th guest. Lena nodded. No. She looked around the chamber. The 8th founder. On the table rested a leather portfolio, untouched by dust, untouched by time. Its cover read, Hollow Circle, Original Charter. Grant reached toward it. Lena caught his wrist. Wait. She examined the portfolio. No wires, no locks, no traps she could see. She opened it. Inside were handwritten meeting minutes, financial ledgers, letters, membership signatures. Then, the final page. Across the bottom were 8 signatures. 7 were readable. The 8th had been cut out with a razor. Only the ink impressions remained. Someone had literally removed the name from history. Catherine's voice broke. They erased Charlotte's father. Everyone looked at her. What? He discovered what the circle had become. Grant frowned. So they erased him? They erased his name. They erased his work. They erased his family. Lena felt another piece fall into place. Like Charlotte. Catherine nodded. Exactly. Officer Price suddenly looked toward the far wall. Detective? A projector had come to life. No one touched it. Light flickered across a white stone screen. A home movie appeared. Not grainy this time. Crystal clear. The date stamped in the corner read, December 18th, 26 years earlier. Anna stood in the very chamber they now occupied. Beside her stood Evelyn. Beside Evelyn, Catherine. All 3 looked frightened. Anna stepped toward the camera. Her voice filled the chamber through hidden speakers. If you're watching this, then Evelyn kept her promise. Lena's throat tightened. Anna continued. We've discovered that someone inside the hollow circle has been stealing identities, destroying evidence, and blackmailing anyone who threatens them. Grant looked toward the signatures. So that's why Evelyn collected secrets. Anna nodded on the recording. If anything happens to us, the proof must survive. She placed a thick file onto the round table. Lena instinctively looked down. The file was still there, exactly where Anna had left it, untouched for 26 years. Anna smiled sadly into the camera. Lena. The detective froze. Her mother was speaking directly to her. If you're old enough to understand these words, then I'm sorry I wasn't there to raise you. Tears filled Lena's eyes. I wanted to. I fought to. I never stopped trying. The room was utterly silent. Anna took a slow breath, then said the words that changed everything. I am leaving tonight, not because I'm running, but because someone inside this house has already betrayed us. The recording stopped. The projector clicked off. Nobody moved. Nobody even seemed to breathe. Grant looked around the chamber. So, the traitor was one of the founders. Lena stared at the untouched file resting on the table. 26 years. No one had opened it. No one had seen what Anna had risked everything to preserve. She reached toward the file. Before her fingers touched it, a voice echoed through the chamber. Calm, measured, very much alive. Don't open it. Everyone spun around. Standing in the entrance to the chamber, illuminated by a single hanging work light, was Nora Bell. She wasn't alone. Standing just behind her was a man no one had seen before. He wore a charcoal overcoat, black leather gloves, silver-rimmed glasses, and he was holding a pistol aimed directly at Lena. He smiled politely, then said, Detective Cross, I've spent 26 years hoping you'd never find this room. Chapter 22. The Eighth Founder. The man's smile never reached his eyes. He held the pistol with the steady confidence of someone who had done it before. Not out of anger, out of habit. Nora Bell stood half a step behind him. Her face was pale. She wasn't pointing a weapon. She wasn't smiling. She looked trapped. Marcus took one instinctive step toward Lena. The man immediately shifted the barrel. I wouldn't. Marcus froze. Who are you? Lena asked. The man inclined his head politely. I've been called many things. He glanced around the underground chamber. But once, I was known as Nathan Mercer. The name landed heavily. Grant frowned. I've never heard of you. Nathan smiled. That was the point. He stepped farther into the chamber. His polished shoes echoed softly against the stone floor. I spent most of my life making certain important people disappeared without ever leaving. Officer Daniel Price kept his hands where the stranger could see them. The hollow circle. Nathan nodded. You've been paying attention. Catherine Monroe stared at him in disbelief. No. Nathan looked at her almost fondly. You always underestimated how patient I was. You were dead. I encouraged that rumor. Grant whispered. You're the eighth founder. Nathan laughed. No, I was never a founder. He looked toward the table. I was the man they hired when their secrets became inconvenient. Silence. Lena felt another piece fall into place. You're the cleaner. Nathan's eyebrows lifted slightly. Evelyn called me that. No. My mother did. Nathan's smile faded for the first time. Anna was always too perceptive. He slowly circled the great oak table. His fingertips brushed the empty nameplate where the 8th founder's identity had been removed. History is an interesting thing, Detective. It rarely remembers who wrote it. It remembers who survived it. Grant's eyes drifted toward the thick file Anna had left behind 26 years earlier. Nathan noticed. I wouldn't. Grant stopped. You've protected that file all these years? Nathan looked amused. No. I've been trying to destroy it. Marcus frowned. Then why hasn't anyone opened it? Nathan smiled again. Because Evelyn was clever. He looked toward Catherine. Clever enough to build a vault. Even I couldn't enter. Catherine folded her arms. You never found the mechanism. No. I found every false entrance. But never the real one. Lena studied him carefully. Until tonight. Nathan nodded once. You solved Evelyn's final puzzle for me. The realization struck everyone at once. Marcus turned toward Lena. We opened the vault. Grant whispered. We brought him here. Nathan spread his hands. Exactly. The room fell silent. Every hidden passage. Every manuscript page. Every clue. Evelyn hadn't merely been guiding Lena toward the truth. She had also been drawing Nathan Mercer into the open. Lena looked at Nora. You knew. Nora lowered her eyes. I knew he was alive. You disappeared. He found me. Nathan answered for her. She made an unfortunate decision. He rested one gloved hand lightly on Nora's shoulder. She remembered more than Evelyn intended. Nora flinched. Nathan continued. I offered her a choice. Grant looked at Nora. What choice? Nora finally spoke. A lie. Her voice cracked. Or everyone dies. Nathan sighed dramatically. I was hoping she'd choose silence. Lena's gaze never left him. You murdered Evelyn. Nathan shook his head. No. You poisoned her. No. You stabbed Julian. Again. No. Marcus exploded. Then what exactly did you do? Nathan's expression became almost sympathetic. I arrived too late. Nobody understood. He looked directly at Lena. When I entered Blackwater House tonight, Evelyn Vale was already dead. Silence swept through the chamber. Grant stared. You're lying. Nathan shrugged. I often do. But not now. Lena felt her pulse quicken. Every instinct told her to reject the statement. Yet, pieces began shifting. The poison, the impossible timeline, the manipulated evidence, the staged gunshot, the planted clues. If Nathan hadn't killed Evelyn, then someone else had. Someone who had been inside the house before Nathan arrived. Someone Evelyn had trusted enough to invite. Nathan slowly lowered the pistol, only slightly. Detective, he looked almost disappointed. You've spent all night asking who killed Evelyn Vale. He glanced toward the thick file on the table. But that's the wrong mystery. Lena took one careful step forward. Then tell me the right one. Nathan smiled. The right mystery is why Evelyn willingly sat down to dinner with the person she already knew was going to murder her. Before anyone could react, a deafening alarm erupted throughout the underground chamber, red warning lights, began spinning overhead. Deep inside the mechanical heart of Blackwater House, enormous gears roared to life. Catherine's face turned white. "No." Grant looked at her. "What is it?" She stared toward the ceiling. "The house." "The house has entered its final sequence." Nathan looked genuinely surprised. "That's impossible." Catherine slowly backed away from the table. "Evelyn told me if anyone ever opened Anna's file without all 8 founders present, Blackwater House would destroy every secret it had ever protected." A loud metallic crash echoed through the tunnels. Somewhere above them, hidden doors began slamming shut. Then smoke started pouring from narrow vents high in the stone walls. Nathan's confident smile vanished. For the first time that night, the man who had spent 26 years controlling everyone else looked afraid. Or Chapter 23. The Architect's Gambit. The alarm screamed through the underground chamber. Red lights spun across the stone walls. Smoke curled from narrow vents hidden between the pillars, climbing toward the ceiling in slow gray ribbons. Marcus coughed. "What is this?" Catherine Monroe didn't answer immediately. Her eyes were fixed on the enormous gears beneath the glass floor. "They're moving." Everyone looked down. Massive brass gears, silent for decades, rotated with deliberate precision beneath their feet. Not randomly. In sequence. Lena watched them carefully. "That's not a self-destruct." Catherine looked at her. "No. It's a lock." Nathan Mercer slowly backed toward the tunnel entrance, pistol still raised. "I've seen enough." Lena stepped into his path. "No. You've waited 26 years. You don't leave now." Nathan's smile returned, but it lacked its earlier confidence. "You think this room traps me?" Catherine answered before Lena could. "It traps everyone." Nathan looked at her. "You designed it." "I know." She nodded toward the gears. "The exits are already sealing." As if to prove her right, a deep metallic boom echoed behind them. The tunnel door through which Nathan had entered slid downward into the stone floor. Officer Daniel Price rushed to it. He grabbed the edge, pulled. Nothing. The slab didn't move. Grant checked the opposite passage. Another steel barrier had dropped there as well. Marcus looked around wildly. "So we're locked in." "For now," Catherine replied. Lena noticed something that everyone else had missed. The round table. It was moving, almost imperceptibly. The 8 chairs slowly rotated with it. Each stopped in front of a different section of the chamber. One chair aligned with the projector, another with the vault, another with a narrow alcove in the wall. The chair with the missing nameplate stopped directly in front of Anna Cross's sealed file. Catherine's eyes widened. "I remember." Lena turned. "What?" "Evelyn changed it." "What did she change?" "The house." Catherine walked slowly toward the table. "When we built Blackwater House, the chamber was only a meeting room." She rested a hand on one of the chairs. "After Anna disappeared, Evelyn rebuilt it." Nathan's expression hardened. "She never finished." Catherine looked directly at him. "Oh." She finished. Lena noticed the smallest flicker of uncertainty cross Nathan's face. It was the first genuine crack in his composure. "Detective," Catherine said. "Look at the chairs." Lena did. Each brass nameplate reflected the spinning red lights. Evelyn, Anna, Catherine, Grant, Marcus, Simon, Julian, the 8th, blank. Then Lena remembered the photograph. 3 founders, 8 signatures. 1 name removed. She looked back at Nathan. You weren't protecting the circle. Nathan said nothing. You were protecting the 8th founder. Still nothing. Grant frowned. What 8th founder? Lena stepped closer to the empty chair. The founder whose name was cut out. Marcus looked confused. I thought that was Charlotte's father. So did I. Lena placed both hands on the back of the empty chair. But Anna's recording changed that. She looked at Catherine. There were 3 founders. Catherine nodded. Anna, Evelyn, and me. Lena continued, which means the missing signature couldn't belong to a founder. Grant's eyes widened. It belonged to the person who controlled them. Nathan's jaw tightened. Lena saw it. A reaction, small but real. She continued. The hollow circle didn't collapse because Anna discovered corruption. She looked straight at Nathan. It collapsed because someone inside it wanted absolute control. Nathan slowly lowered the pistol. You've always been brighter than Evelyn described. Lena ignored the compliment. You weren't cleaning up crimes. You were creating them. Silence. Nathan smiled. This is why Anna liked you. Marcus looked between them. Will somebody tell me what's happening? Nathan sighed. You still believe the Hollow Circle was a literary society? It wasn't. Grant stared. Then what was it? Nathan looked around the chamber. It was an information network. Writers, lawyers, doctors, judges, publishers, people who knew secrets before anyone else. He smiled faintly. And secrets are far more valuable than money. Simon folded his arms. So Evelyn blackmailed people. Nathan nodded. Eventually. But she wasn't the first. Lena finished the thought. You were. Nathan looked almost impressed. I never needed to threaten people. I simply knew which truth would destroy them. He took one slow step toward Anna's sealed file. And everything I ever built is inside that folder. The room fell silent. Lena understood at last. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about inheritance. It wasn't even about Evelyn. It was about the file. The one piece of evidence Nathan had failed to erase. The one reason Evelyn had orchestrated her own final mystery. To make sure the only detective capable of solving it found it before Nathan did. A soft electronic click echoed through the chamber. Everyone looked toward the table. A narrow compartment had opened beneath the empty chair. Inside rested a single brass key. Unlike the others, it bore no number, only 2 engraved letters. CM saw Charlotte Monroe. Catherine covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. It survived! Lena carefully lifted the key. It was warm, as though it had been waiting. Then, from hidden speakers high in the chamber, Evelyn Vale's voice echoed one final time. If you've reached this point, then my story is over. A pause. But yours is just beginning. The room fell perfectly still. Lena, do not open Anna's file. Marcus stared in disbelief. What? Evelyn continued. Open Charlotte's. Nathan's face drained of color, for the first time in 26 years. He looked genuinely terrified. He whispered only one word: "No." Chapter 24. Charlotte's File. Nathan Mercer lunged. He wasn't fast enough. Lena closed her fingers around the brass key marked CM. The moment she lifted it from its hidden compartment, another mechanism clicked somewhere inside Blackwater House. The alarm stopped. The red lights froze. Then every light in the chamber shifted to a warm amber glow. Silence settled over the room. Not the suffocating silence that had haunted the house all night. This silence felt deliberate, as if the house itself had been waiting for someone to choose correctly. Nathan stared at the key. "You don't understand what you've done." Lena met his eyes. "No. I think I finally do." She walked past him toward a narrow cabinet built into the stone wall behind the 8th chair. The brass key fit perfectly. With a soft click, the cabinet door unlocked. Inside rested a single archival box, no larger than a shoebox. Unlike every other file Evelyn had left behind, this one wasn't labeled in her handwriting. The elegant blue ink was gone. Instead, a child's careful block letters stretched across the lid. Charlotte. Catherine Monroe's knees nearly gave way. She reached for the cabinet to steady herself. "I wrote that." Her voice cracked. "I helped her spell it." Grant looked between Catherine and the box. "Evelyn kept this all these years?" Catherine nodded slowly. "She promised me no one would ever erase Charlotte." Nathan took a step forward. Officer Price immediately raised his service weapon. "Don't." Nathan stopped. For the first time since entering the chamber, his confidence had vanished. His gaze never left the box. "Detective?" His voice softened. "You don't want to open that?" Lena smiled faintly. "You've spent 26 years trying to stop people from opening things." She carefully lifted the lid. Inside were no ledgers, no bank records, no blackmail files, no criminal confessions. Only ordinary things. A small stuffed rabbit with one missing button eye. A red ribbon. A birthday card signed by Anna, Evelyn, and Catherine. A school report with gold stars in the corner. A tiny silver bracelet. Marcus frowned. "That's it." Lena continued searching. Beneath the keepsakes lay a thick sealed envelope. On the front were 7 handwritten words. The truth should never belong to one person. She broke the wax seal. Inside were dozens of documents, medical records, school enrollment papers, birth certificates, photographs, letters, every official record proving one simple fact: Charlotte Monroe had existed. Catherine covered her mouth as tears rolled down her cheeks. "They erased everything." She looked at the papers. But they couldn't erase this. Lena turned another page, then another. Near the bottom of the stack she found something unexpected. A newspaper clipping. 26 years old. Its headline read, "Local girl missing after lake accident." There was no photograph, just a blank square where Charlotte's picture should have been. Someone had physically removed it before the paper was archived. Grant whispered, "They started erasing her immediately." Lena nodded. "But they missed something." She held up the back page. Printed near the bottom was the name of the photographer assigned to the story, not a newspaper employee, a freelancer, Anna Cross. Marcus looked confused. Anna photographed the story about her own disappearance? Lena smiled. No, she prepared it. Silence. Everyone slowly understood. Anna hadn't been reporting her death. She'd been documenting a plan. Nathan's breathing became shallow. You're reading it wrong. Lena ignored him. She unfolded one final document, a handwritten letter from Anna. Not to Evelyn. Not to Catherine. To Charlotte. My sweet Charlotte, if this letter reaches you, it means our plan worked longer than we hoped, but not as long as we dreamed. Lena looked up. Our plan. Grant whispered, Anna planned to disappear. She kept reading. One day, someone will tell you that I abandoned you. Another will tell you I died. Both stories are lies meant to keep you alive. Catherine closed her eyes. Anna's words continued. The safest child is the child no one remembers. The chamber fell completely silent. Lena slowly lowered the letter. Everything they had believed shifted. Charlotte had not been erased by accident. She had been hidden, protected. Anna and Evelyn had chosen to erase one child from history to keep her beyond the reach of the hollow circle. Nathan laughed softly, a tired, defeated laugh. You still don't see it. Lena turned toward him. What? He looked directly at Catherine. Ask her. Catherine's face turned pale. She whispered, No. Nathan nodded. Tell them. She shook her head. No. Tell them! His voice echoed through the chamber. Catherine's shoulders slumped. She looked first at Lena, then at Clara. Finally, she looked at the photograph of the 3 smiling girls resting atop Charlotte's box. When she spoke, her voice was barely more than a whisper. There was never a plan. To hide one child. Lena frowned. What do you mean? Catherine looked into her eyes. The plan was to hide too. Lena felt the world tilt. Catherine reached into the box. From beneath the letters and photographs, she withdrew a second birth certificate. One no one had seen. She handed it to Lena with trembling hands. Lena read the name once, then again. Her breath caught. She slowly looked up at Catherine, then at Clara, then at the birth certificate, still trembling in her hands. Marcus searched Lena's face. What is it? Lena couldn't answer. She simply turned the document around so everyone could read the name for themselves. At the bottom of the page, beneath the official seal, were the words, Child's name, Clara Monroe. The room fell utterly silent. Clara stared at the document as though it belonged to someone else. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she asked the question no one was prepared to answer. If I'm Charlotte's sister, then who was Clara Vale? Chapter 25. The Last Guest. No one spoke. The silence inside the chamber felt heavier than the stone above it. Clara stared at the birth certificate in Lena's hands. Child's name, Clara Monroe. She looked at Catherine. Tell me. Catherine's eyes overflowed. I've wanted to tell you for 26 years. Marcus slowly lowered himself into one of the oak chairs. I don't understand. You will, Lena said quietly. She looked back down at the documents. 2 birth certificates. Charlotte Monroe. Clara Monroe. No adoption papers, no legal transfer. No record of Clara Vale ever existing before she arrived at Blackwater House. Lena finally understood what Evelyn had been trying to say all night. The first lie was not the murder. It was the names. She looked at Clara. You were never Clara Vale. You became Clara Vale. Clara's knees weakened. Catherine caught her before she fell. You and Charlotte were my daughters. Tears streamed down Catherine's face. When the Hollow Circle discovered Anna had copied their records, Nathan decided the children had become a liability. Nathan Mercer remained silent. He no longer looked dangerous. He looked tired, like a man who had spent too many years protecting a lie. Catherine continued. Anna refused to abandon you. Evelyn refused to surrender you. So we created new identities. She looked at Clara. You became Evelyn's adopted daughter. Then she looked at Lena. And you became Anna Cross's only child. Lena's heart pounded. My mother. Catherine nodded. Anna loved you exactly as if you had been born to her. Grant slowly looked between the three women. So? Lena wasn't Anna's biological daughter. No. Clara wasn't Evelyn's adopted daughter. No. And Charlotte. Catherine closed her eyes. We lost her. Silence. Nathan finally spoke. We didn't lose her. Everyone turned. He looked at the old photographs scattered across the table. I took her. No one moved. No one breathed. I was ordered to erase every trace of the Monroe family. I couldn't kill a child. So I disappeared one. Marcus stared in disbelief. You expect us to believe that? Nathan shook his head. I don't expect forgiveness. I only expect the truth. Lena stepped closer. Where is she? Nathan looked directly at Catherine. I don't know. Catherine's expression shattered. What? I left her with people who had never heard of the Hollow Circle. I changed her name. I destroyed every document linking her to Blackwater House. He lowered his head. I was supposed to return. I never could. Grant whispered, You've been searching for her. Nathan nodded. For 26 years. Lena suddenly remembered every strange thing Nathan had said. He had wanted Charlotte's file. Not to destroy it. To find her. That didn't erase everything he had done, but it changed why he had done it. Lena looked toward Evelyn's empty chair. So, Evelyn knew. Catherine smiled sadly. Evelyn believed that one day, you would finish what she couldn't. Officer Price finally broke the silence. Detective, what about Evelyn? Everyone looked at Lena. The original question, the reason the night had begun. Who killed Evelyn Vale? Lena walked slowly back to the dining table's recovered evidence. The poison report, the inhaler, the wine glass, the manuscript pages. Then she smiled. A small smile. Not because she was happy, because she finally saw it. Evelyn wasn't murdered. Marcus stood. What? She was dying. Simon nodded slowly. The illness. Lena looked at him. You knew. I suspected. Evelyn had a terminal neurological disease. Months left, maybe weeks. Lena held up Evelyn's inhaler. The poison wasn't administered by another guest. It was inside the final dose. Evelyn prepared herself. Grant frowned. She poisoned herself? Lena nodded. She chose the exact night. the exact guests, the exact storm. So no one could leave. So everyone would finally tell the truth. Marcus stared at Evelyn's chair. My sister planned her own death. Yes. Nathan closed his eyes. I tried to stop her. Lena looked at him. You arrived after she was gone. He nodded once. I came for Anna's file. I found Evelyn already dead. Julian recognized me. Everyone looked toward the place where Julian had died. Nathan continued. He reached for the emergency alarm hidden beneath the table. I panicked. I shoved him. Julian struck the corner of the sideboard as he fell. Nathan lowered his head. I never meant to kill him. The room remained quiet. Lena replayed the night in her mind. Every clue fit. Every lie found its place. Every impossible event now had an explanation. The moving walls, the altered recordings, the planted evidence, the hidden passages, the staged gunshot, the mysterious messages, they had all served one purpose: to keep everyone searching. Until they reached the truth Evelyn actually wanted them to find. Not her killer. Charlotte. Outside, dawn's first light filtered through the stained glass windows. The storm had ended. For the first time since midnight, sunlight touched Blackwater House. Officer Price's radio crackled. Lena. Real dispatch, real voices, real backup. She smiled faintly. They're finally here. Nathan quietly placed his pistol on the table. I won't run. Catherine took Clara's hand. Grant picked up Anna's journal. Marcus stood before Evelyn's empty chair for a long moment. I never understood you, he whispered, but I finally understand why. Lena closed Charlotte's file. She looked around the chamber one last time. Blackwater House had never been built to hide murder. It had been built to preserve truth until someone brave enough could uncover it. As officers entered the chamber above, Lena slipped one final envelope from beneath Charlotte's file. It had no address, only 3 handwritten words. For next time. She opened it. Inside was a single typed page. Some stories end. Others simply wait for the next page. At the bottom, in Evelyn Vale's unmistakable blue ink, was one final title. Book 2, The Empty Alibi. Lena smiled despite herself. Then she tucked the page into her coat. Some mysteries deserved to end. Others deserved to be remembered. And somewhere, a woman named Charlotte was still waiting to be found. The end. Some stories end. Others stay with you. Until next time, keep turning the pages.